Check. Check one. They're on. Check. Oh, there we go. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, Survive the Spin, FE Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Sea Level Cultist, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Names Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Melds 24, Yu Unamento, M, Iron 26, Endless, Golden McKiernan, Retro Bill, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Hey Neil.
What's happening?
Nothing. I just thought rather than doing my little jiggery pokery before I press the record button, there's no harm in doing it while I'm recording. Normally I'm sat here talking to myself. You know what I mean? Like, why isn't that working? Oh yeah, I've got to turn my amps on. Things like that. I thought just to mix it up a little bit before I did anything. It happened to be on the camera when I turned on OBS. I'm like, okay, well, why don't I just hit record and we'll go from there. But that means, of course, I'm slightly distracted and haven't actually fully set up everything. But I can do that on the fly while I'm talking. I've done this so many times, I can probably do it from muscle memory. Anyway, how are you?
I'm good.
Well, that's good to know. I quite enjoyed yesterday's show. I don't know if it was the good temperament of the person that was our subject matter. The fittest Christian, I think he's called. I don't know. When people are just good people. So I got the sense from that guy that he was a good guy. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, a couple of things I didn't agree with him with, but yeah.
Go on.
generally,
Let's hear those. Let's go with that. We'll start with those. What didn't you agree with him on? It, obviously, in terms of how he approaches plaster, but let's hear it.
Yeah, when he painted all the pastors in the same picture with that the how did he say? How did he phrase it?
You don't need to say. Just say stereotyping fallacy and go on to the next thing.
Right. Exactly. The way he phrased how all the pastors got their education from. Like, I don't agree with that. There's a lot of pastors that read the Bible for what it is. There's a lot of flat earth pastors out there that read the Bible and it is what it is. They're not indoctrinated by the heliocentric nonsense. I mean, they were, but now they're not.
Okay, fair enough.
Listen, I'm going through this whole thing with my brother. It's he also. You got to pray that you could God reveal all the lies that the church told you. What or the Bible? What do you mean? Because he's gone backwards, back to the law when Jesus overcame the law. So I don't know. People, to me, it's like when you come to flat Earth, there's a bunch of things that come. The Hebrew roots, all of this other nonsense. I went through all of that. I don't want to celebrate Christmas anymore. That's not the day he was born. I don't want to celebrate Easter anymore because it's a pagan word. And I became very bitter. So I went through all of that. It's nonsense. Let's take the
Fair
Bible
enough.
for what it is and what it says.
Yeah, that's why I like Paula so much. Paula, who probably is just, I'm probably just a massive disappointment to Paula. Bible you, right? Not my Paula. My wife loves me dearly, don't you, Paula? Not that Paula. Paula Bible you. Right, she still hangs around. And I'm, like I say, probably just a big disappointment to a sweary, aggressive mess of a man that she's like just shaking her head the whole time. I'm in no doubt. But for whatever reason, she's still here. Now, I don't know what the reason is, but I know what I like about Paula Bible you. And that was her namesake, right? Bible literalist originally. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I lean on her for a lot. Like a lot of things, I'll
Yeah,
go to
me
her
too.
and see what she gives me the script because she does. She's vast research. I mean, it's a
She just
lot.
lays it out there. I hate how underappreciated she is, right? So she sat there, it gives me goosebumps talking about this. I will sit in front of Paula with my Paula on a Sunday. Not so much recently, I just haven't had the time. But in months gone by, specifically on a Sunday, I would sit with my wife at about tea time, which is when she'd be doing a live stream. And we'd just sit religiously. And I wouldn't tend to chat in the comment section, but I'd allude to her that I'd been watching after the fact in some, meaningful way in a chat. So she'd be in a chat, I'd be watching a video with her, and I'd just hint at something that I, picked up on from her stream that I'd been watching with my wife and kids. And it was kind of like our Sunday thing. But just, like I say, she's so underappreciated because she's laying it down and she's wise enough to lay this stuff out in such a concise way, having researched it thoroughly. That is to say, when she's putting this stuff on dedicating it to tape, I mean, that's not the way we do things anymore, but as a metaphor, right? When she's recording this stuff, video and audio, and presenting it, she's already got it down completely pat. So to have it presented to me, I feel privileged. Then you look at the audience numbers and there's 10 people watching, you're like, it's just not fair. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's not that she's disappointed. It's just that she sort of like gave up trying to curb the language.
That's
But
another way of
she's
saying.
still here.
So when someone says they've given up, oh, that's even worse. Oh, shut up, Neil. You're making things worse.
It's changed a lot. I mean, your swearing has went down a lot. I mean, some days it gets to the point where it's crazy with the mother effers and stuff. But it's when you're antagonized. It's when you're poked. If you could just get control of that. Because like I say, when that book comes out, there's going to be people searching for your channel. And you don't want them coming in. I mean, some people are offended by that. Some people like it. I don't know. But you want to have a good freaking representation of who you are.
Yeah, I get it, Neil. Unfortunately, we're dealing with most cantankerous of subjects, aren't we? So on both sides, it's going to boil blood.
Yeah, and you always let them know, and that's good because there is a reason for it. I mean, I just don't curse in conversation, but if I get pissed off, it comes out of me.
Yeah, same here. But that's our own fault, right? You know, it's your own lack of self-control, and so do I, right? This is the thing. As soon as someone points it out to you, I immediately hang my head because it's like, yeah, I know. I am disappointed in myself. I have reflected on this many times. And when people say people don't change their behaviour, right? Leopards don't change their spots is one of the things that the guys on the behaviour panel say, right? The creature does what the creature knows and all those sorts of sentiments. You're like, ah. So is this just me? Am I going to be stuck with me being sweary like a sailor? You're like, no, I've got to be able to exercise a certain amount of control over it. And like you say, even when you've got it under relative control, there's going to be somebody that pushes that button that gets that to come out of you. Now, the people around us are only looking for those buttons, aren't they? That's all they do.
Yep. Yeah, like the guy was it yesterday? This guy came in.
Yeah,
with
I'd
his,
love to have listened to that back. I just haven't had time. That's the thing. I'm so devoid of time at the moment. I should be poorly. Really. I'm definitely burning the candle at both ends. Gotta be done. If I want the book to be good, I've got to survive this section of polish, right? So I've just got to keep my head down and work, flog my microphones, deal with the customers. It's all par for the course. It's normal stuff. But temporarily, I need 2 jobs, so I've got 2 jobs now, which is fine.
Yeah, I still. My brother went to New York because he's got his air conditioning business, and he asked if I was coming to go to work, and I said no. I'm going to try to make it work here because it's not good being away from my family for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, sometimes almost 12 weeks. I mean, if it generated a lot of money where I come home and I got 20 grand in the bank, then it's worth it. But if I'm just making a few more dollars than what I would have made here, doing deliveries, then I'm not going to go. I'm going to stay here and make it work. Now, what helps is my wife got a part-time job and my son's got a job. So if we're pulling everything together, I'm making the same amount I would when I'm in New York.
Yeah, that's it. You need a bit of help from your family. Exactly. I completely understand. It's one of the, like you say, you make it work. Occasionally, when I'm buying these microphones, as opposed to selling them, so I'm all excited when I'm selling them because it's the exciting bit, right? You can talk about how wonderful it is to try and encourage somebody to purchase it. That's the fun bit. But the other end of it is the dirty end of buying, where you're dealing with someone and saying, your thing that's worth 20 quid or you're asking 20 quid for, can I have it for £1? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, you absolutely rude. Oh, I can't believe my ears. That's the reaction, right? People are really offended. But that's what you got to do. Now, occasionally on that journey, you come across someone who's the same as you. And they're like, trying to keep the wolves at bay. And you're like, yeah, I've got 2 girls. I need to keep them fed. They're like, yeah, same here. In other words, somebody on the other end of the bay buying and selling rigmarole is nudging back going, you're doing what I'm doing, aren't you? Just trying to get by, right?
Mirror. Yeah, it's a mirror. It's just a guy just like you on the other side of the mirror.
Yeah, exactly. But normally, if they're in good spirits, they'll nudge back and sort of hint at, I know what you're doing, you know what I'm doing, and it's quite good fun, isn't it? We're getting by doing what we're doing. Yeah. Other times you can tell when they've just by their reaction to you that they've overstretched themselves or something. I just don't want to be that guy. As much as I'm burning the candle at both ends temporarily, this book won't last forever. The writing it process will eventually end. So it's like, this is definitely a temporary thing to me, so I can cope with it because I can see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But for some people, right, I can imagine that there is no light at the end of the tunnel. They're just doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and trying to get by indefinitely, and then they can become completely jaded with you. But there we go. But like Witsit, that's why I was talking about it. We didn't actually cover it yesterday when I was talking about him e-begging for $5,000 or whatever he's asking for, $6,000 or something. It's like, okay,
10.
Is it 10? Whatever the number is, it's irrelevant. The number's irrelevant, right? I know by how much money people donate to me via PayPal or whatever the means might be, right? Whatever the means, I can see the numbers going up and down. I keep a close eye on it. Now, if I thought for 1 second that I could just increase my revenue by just going, can you give me more money, please? Do you not think I'd have done that already? Read the room. He's buggered off and then just come back and gone, I'm kind of running low on money. Can you all give me money? For whatever reason, I'm sure he's got some desperate thing that he needs to tend to. Yeah? But it's like, read the room. If you're finding people are giving you less money, there's a reason for that. People have got less money. Now, when you recognise that and do hopefully I'm getting this reaction. I don't know. No one's told me this. But that's the idea. People go, yeah, no, I appreciate that you're putting the graft in. When the good times were around and I was giving you all the super chats, now that they're not, what, you're going to just bugger off, turn your back on everyone who gave you all those super chats all those years because you're struggling a little bit and we haven't got the money to just keep giving it you and increase the amount when it's going down for us. So you've got to do something else. You're like, yeah, show willing, do something else, right? Run another job, get a book so you've got an extra revenue stream so you're not just relying on e-begging constantly. So while that's going on, there's no sign of Witsit, he's buggered off. And then he just plonks him back in the community and asks for 10k. You're like, oh my God, read the frickin' room.
That's going to be difficult if the room is not covered in a hard-covered book.
What, for him or me?
For him, how's he going to read the room? He only reads hardcovers.
I see what you mean. I was thinking about my book. Yes. Has it got a hardback? Yeah, I see what you're going there. Bit of an in-joke. You need to... Yeah.
Well, to me, it just shows that he don't give a shit about nobody. He don't give a crap about nobody. He only cares about himself, and that's the way he's always been.
Yeah. I don't disagree. But admiration and respect that is obviously sought after by YouTubers is earned, like anywhere, right? You can't just plonk yourself somewhere down and go, right, this is me, I've arrived. It's the 80-20 rule again, isn't it? Right? You can get to 80% of what you need to do in 20% of the time. But then the rest of it, the polish, is 80% of your time trying to refine what you've already done. Now, for most people, they're like, bugger that, I want it to be as easy as it was for the first 80% of achievements. What are you saying? I've got to put a load of 10 times more work now to refine that which I achieved really quickly. Yeah. That's the way with specialising in things. Flat Earth's so different in the case of me and Witsit.
Well, the same way that this final experiment nonsense.
Final asparagus.
Yeah, final asparagus. The final. I can't even say it because it's not an experiment. But the same way it kind of like put a damper on things and caused a whole bunch of. Well, I thought it was good because it got rid of all the idiots. All the chaff is gone now. But I believe when your book hits, it's going to be a rejuvenation. I feel it.
Maybe not. I mean, I don't have that lofty of an expectation in the short term for it. But I do know in the long term the book will be around for a long time because I know what's in it, I know the quality of it and how refined it's become with not just me and my 10 years experience, but with lots of other people and their 10 years experience all pooled and then polished. So, my original Just Me book has gone through lots of people's hands now to be refined by them. So yeah, it's still my book, but it's 10 times better for having been refined by people around me that want my book to be exceptional. And that's nice, right? To have that kind of support around you where they're like, no. When your book comes out, I see your book as a representation of me to the point where I want to make sure your book's absolutely perfect. So let's go through it. And you're like, that's back to this showing willing. It's like, no, all these people around me doing that is, again, another reason why I've had to take off a second job, basically. Because it's like, well, that in a way, with the number of man hours that are being put into the book is similar for them, right? So it's like, well, if I've got to have a second job to keep my head above water, to keep doing the YouTubing so that people can help me doing the book. So eventually the book's done and I don't need a second job. I've got a second revenue stream from the book. And I've then got more time to do more videography and maybe go out on tour talking about the book. It's like things will work out in the end. It's just, right at the end is where it's so easy for it to all fall apart if you don't proactively do something when you see that, oh, hang on a second. If I carry on this way 3 months from now, I'll be out of a house because I won't be paying my mortgage.
Yeah, you got to hustle. But there's one thing that your book has over every other Flat Earth book that came out. We talk about measurements. And that's going to be the key. That we're regular, everyday people are going to be able to catch on to that. Their eyes are going to be opened. I feel it. I know. I
Yeah.
got good discernment.
Yeah, I knew the power of Earth measured flat the moment it was contemplated. The realization comes, and you're like, nothing else matters. So when that was going on, we had people like Lumpy. I think he was Lumpy, and there was another one similar to him, going, no, you can't say it's measured flat. Like, this is weird. Why am I being told that? On the one hand, I'm recognizing the majesty of this fact, and I'm being told I'm not allowed to say it. Now I'm telling our opponents, don't use our stuff. And it was Book Sodbuster I was referencing yesterday, saying, don't use our stuff. It's like, that's interesting, Book Sodbuster, that you'd like my words so much. Lots of people like to mimic me. Yeah? There's only one me, I'm unique, and I do come up with some awesome catchphrases that people like to imitate. So I said to Book Sodbuster, it's all right, Sodbuster, you can use my stuff, no worries. But yeah, while that was going on, people were telling me, you can't say it's measured flat. Yeah, I can, because it is. Very interesting that they'd be trying to tell me not to, at the point that there could be some potential for me to be second-guessing myself. Now, they didn't know that, but there was people around me suggesting I should second-guess myself. Why? Look what's on screen, what's flashing by. Everything that we do with respect to Earth and its surface is a flat measurement. Always. But back then, I had one or two and an inkling that there was more. Now I know it's all of them, without exception. But back then I didn't, and there was people working on me to make me think otherwise. Interesting, wouldn't you say, Neil?
Yeah, don't say say the reference is measured flat. You can't say the Earth is measured flat. They wanted all different type of wording. It's very strange.
The reference was what? Oh, Earth.
Exactly.
Yeah, very interesting. But like you say, the biggest strength of the book was something that people were telling me I should second guess myself 12, 18 months ago. No. No, that'll be the reason the book's still on shelves in 100 years' time. Long after, it benefits me. That's to say I won't be getting any financial benefit from it. I'll be long dead. Like Robotham. Is he benefiting from his book? I'm thinking no. He's dead.
He wasn't talking about how Earth is measured flat, though.
Well, we are. And it says that in my book.
That's going to be the catch.
It'll be a book that you want to give to someone else, right? That is to say, it's got a comprehensive answer for everything in it, because it's a reference book. So therefore, when you hand it off to someone else, although it's got a bit of a story behind it and you can read it as such, when you get to the comprehensive bits, you might have to read them 3 or 4 times to understand them, but it's not like you're going to have to go to a different book to figure out how Coriolis works. You just have to really read and study and understand the paragraphs that are in front of you, and then you'll understand it and you can go about your business understanding it. But there's a good chance you'll read it and not understand it the first time. Fair enough. But that's what reference books are like. So it's a kind of book that you'll want to give to someone else and go, I don't want to sit here and argue with you. Here's the book on flat Earth and how Earth's flat.
Yeah, there's a few people I got in mind that I'm going to slip that book to, and that's perfect. I mean, why argue? Just read this book and then come back to me.
I've got to do 2 tours, right? When it's starting to get wrapped up with the publisher, I need to do an initial pre-tour to establish who wants to promote the book, because they can have a third of its value when it sells. 30%, I should say. I have to get out of the habit of saying a third. In any event, they'll get 30% and if they're up for doing it, they'll be putting links before it comes out. So when someone comes and they start talking about it and it's available for sale, they've immediately got their bank link to the affiliate link. But I need to arrange that before the book's actually available. So in a way, that's like a pre-tour. And then once it's available, potentially all those people that have got a link to it, because they've all been lined up and they've got it sorted, can then talk to me on a show and, hopefully get people to actually click on that link so that they can earn that 30%. Because I don't think everyone's mercenary. I'm not suggesting that. But I think when you say to somebody, you can earn 30% off the book, they're like, well, how much do you earn off the book? 30%, same as you will. They're like, what? So you'll get the same as I will? Yeah, if they click your affiliate link, you'll get 30%, I'll get 30%. Publisher will get 30%, and there's this extra 10% for the publisher, but that's a different story. Nevertheless,
I was going to ask you, where's that 10% go?
Oh, it's one of those. Look, it's actually still, once I've looked into it, still lower compared to the other market values like Amazon and various others that want more. It's just that crappier elsewhere, believe it or not, as much as I'm questioning it with limited knowledge about it. When you start looking into it, you go, oh, actually, that's fairly not even par for the course. It's better than usual. So I don't know. Whether or not it gets questioned and queried, we'll see in future. There'll be certain contractual obligations on both sides and limits in terms of numbers and unit sales and time periods. That'll all get sort of ironed out just before it goes actually out for sale. But I don't think there's anything untoward in that regard. But it's not really relevant to the guy who I'm telling you get the same as I do if it sells. Yeah? That guy will just go, really? So I don't do anything and get the same amount out of the book sale that you do? Yeah, basically.
I wonder what's going on with Fisherman in a Box. He hasn't come out with like a show for a while. Like he's only got like 5-minute shows. Usually every week he comes out with an hour show.
I'm sure
It hasn't.
At least he's putting out the 5-minute videos. I watched one today.
Yeah, he got the 5-minutes. They come out, but he usually has like a good long 1-hour show. But I know he's game for being part of it. I don't know if he contacted you yet.
No, but I will. I'll get in touch with all of them. And I'll put out that word maybe on today's show as it starts to creep towards the time, that is. It's like, drop me a line, get in touch with me. Tell me you want to actually be part of me promoting the book, because it becomes the book rather than my book when you're getting a certain cut via an affiliate link through promoting it.
Brian's got a channel. I'm sure he's going to be part of it. Hopefully, even though he's got a book coming out too. That's good too. I'm excited to hear Brian's book because he's going to go in depth on things. That's how Brian, Right, and then 10th Man's got a book. I know that for a fact.
Oh my God. Seriously? Anyway. Hello, everyone in Discord, by the way.
Good morning, guys.
Who's that?
That's me, Vitaly, Neil.
Harley's
I'm over here at work as usual, swapping out some electrical circuit breakers.
You're an electrician?
jolly good.
Yep.
Yeah, so what do you think about Nathan saying that the UK's got a better electrician system than we do?
We have.
I'm not too familiar with the UK system, so it's hard for me to say, to be honest with you. I mean, I know it runs on 220 volts,
Yeah,
like most
240.
of Europe, but but it's hard for me to say, Neil.
Yeah, that's specialist over in the States. If you wanted that, you'd have to have it installed for, like, if you've got a generator or something, you'd have to have a special electrical install done to achieve 220 or 240, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I actually just got an approval from our local, what's called electrical company here, Con Edison, for a 3-phase 400 amp service in the residential zone, and it was approved. So that's something that doesn't happen quite often.
Right, but we get that almost, not quite to that standard, but almost just standard. That's just what we have.
Yeah.
Let's see what you're saying, because my brother puts it.
I think you have a single phase 220 system, not a 3-phase. I think
Correct.
3-phase system would also be something that would have to be, requested, especially from the electrical company or for commercial applications, I would assume.
Yeah, that's obviously for something far more than any house is going to ever need. So yes, 3-phase. You talk about something that might be pulling kilowatts of power, right? Presumably something big going on, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I get it, but you understand what I'm saying, though, right? To get to a similar level that we get as standard, it's going to be a specialist install in the States.
Yes, it's a look. I understand what you're trying to say. It's a cleaner service, right? Basically, like a cleaner distribution.
Yes,
If that makes any sense.
yeah, and it's less just generally speaking, the standards that are applied to mains here are of a higher standard than other places that I've been. That is to say, when I go to other countries, they're a lot more relaxed about what the electricity's doing. Let's just put it that way.
Oh yeah, I'm from the Ukraine originally, so
so you'll know exactly
Poland,
what I'm talking about.
Ukraine, Russia, so I'm familiar.
Right, exactly. So it would
region.
not be unfamiliar to, let's say, in the Ukraine, move a picture and then find that there's an open box with live wires behind the picture, for instance.
Oh,
no
absolutely.
way.
Yes, way.
There's
yes,
no conduit, no BX, and no nothing.
Yeah,
You just throw wires on the wall and just plaster over it.
Exactly, you've got it. That's what I've experienced. Right, and we're at the pinnacle in terms of mains. Right, now, we moan about everything. Brits, like Adam moaning about potholes. Like, when you boil it down, we don't know we're born in England if we haven't experienced other places. We've got it really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I could agree with that.
I remember one time I put a mini split system in with my brother in Brooklyn, and we had to wait for Con Edison to redo something so we could charge it up and get it started. Is that what you're talking about? Where they had to change
No, I'm
what they
thinking what you
originally
had to
had?
do was probably something to do with the meter, I would assume, or maybe the service was locked down or something.
No, it wasn't strong
Like
enough.
the only time Con Ed ever comes out to like a job is to energize or de-energize something. You know what I mean? Actually, no, they don't even
We had to
de-energize.
wait on
We
them to.
de-energize for them.
I'll find out right now what he had to do. They had to change. They had to change it from whatever it was to something higher.
Oh, they probably had to upgrade the service. So they probably went from 100 amps to 200 amps. And then the mini split system that you guys installed was probably just didn't get power until they upgraded that service. Well, I'm just assuming here.
No, that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been in this game for quite some time now. Well, not really that long, 15 years, but 15 years in the profession is a decent amount of time, I think.
What do you mean? 15 years? You're a mechanic, a master mechanic. 5-year apprenticeship, and you got 10 years of mechanic. That's good.
Well, I'm a master licensed electrician in New York City and in Florida. Even though I haven't pulled my Florida license yet, I passed the exams, but I haven't done anything with them yet.
Yeah, electric is one of the things I shy away from.
That's what kind of attracted me to the whole flat Earth thing was like I want to say like early 23. I started seeing a bunch of videos on Twitter, not from flat earthers, just from like random accounts about gravity and density and buoyancy. And then I heard Whitsitt start talking about electricity and magnetism, and that really fascinated me. You know what I mean? It really got your head going and this and that. And then I think it was somewhere like August of last year was when I came across you guys, and luckily I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're in the right place here. You got Whitsitt begging for 10 grand now.
Yeah, I think he took that off now. I think probably too many people were talking about it, so he took that off.
I'm glad I sell microphones. They'll keep the wolves at bay. You can't rely on people when that's what I said about read the room, right? Read the room. If everyone's struggling, they're not going to just hand over cash to you.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, personally, I think it's probably for lawyer fees for divorce, because I went through something similar a couple of years ago. I mean, luckily I did not get divorced, but I do know how expensive it is. And when there's children involved in his situation, he's going to have to pay for his attorney, her attorney, and the children's attorney.
Why? They
So,
were
I mean, I would
Oh,
imagine that's what it's
don't
for,
put that
but
rumour
who
out. I'm
knows?
recording this. What makes you think that? I mean, don't even tell me that. Do you have any evidence to suggest that's the case?
No,
Don't
no,
put
that's
that
just
out
me,
there. Don't
personal
do that.
opinion.
Don't do
Exactly.
that.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Don't do that. Please.
It's a
Unless
bad
you
day for
know,
tongue
don't say
slipping,
that.
isn't it?
What?
Bad day for tongue slipping, isn't it?
Yeah. It certainly seems so. Although that necessarily isn't a slip of the tongue, it's just speculation. And there's no need to speculate about another man's marriage and how it's going to the point where you speculate about him needing money for a divorce. Bloody hell.
I completely agree with that. And if Witz is listening, I do apologize for spreading any kind of ill will, feelings or thoughts. Not really
Well, who
ill
knows
will,
what to
just
believe with him? He's a
speculation.
liar.
Yeah, but you know what? I will always be grateful to Witsit for bringing me into the subject, just like I'm sure Nathan is to Mass Powerland, whether he agrees with him now or doesn't.
Yeah, but Matt Powerland ain't talking nonsense. There comes a point where, okay, yeah, Dave Weiss was the one I heard mention Flat Earth debate many years ago. I'm glad he did. Served its purpose. But once you stab Nathan in the back, that's it. It's a direct attack against everybody affiliated with Flat Earth debate, and I got no use for you.
Anyway.
Oh, on another note, Nathan, I know I asked you this, I think like last week or a couple of weeks ago. Is there anybody in this Discord right now that is not a member of Nathan? Can you go onto YouTube and see if his YouTube channel provides memberships? Because remember I told you my membership was paused because I lost my debit card? I can't seem to do anything. I go on your site, there's no options for memberships anymore.
Okay. I mean, there definitely is when I look at it. So I don't know what to say.
There is?
Yeah, maybe.
All right, so it's definitely it's my issue then.
I think so.
That's what I just wanted to make sure if it was on my end or everybody's end.
You got to ask somebody. When I became a member, I had to get walked through it. I didn't think I was able to either, but they I forgot who walked me through it. I think it was Godzilla. He walked me through it, and then I was able to purchase a membership on my own. There's something you got to click, and then it takes you somewhere else, and then it has it right there.
Yeah, no, I remember I actually had a hard time when I first did it as well. But then, I got it, and then it's just I lost my debit card, so I got a new one. So when the month ended, it just paused it, and I'm trying to go in and change, like update the payment method, and it's just not letting me update the payment method because it says you got to go to the site, go to memberships, and update it there. The only thing I see is that I had a Penguin membership, and that's it. It doesn't give me like any option to do anything with it. That's probably on my end. It's definitely probably me.
I don't know what to suggest. I'm really sorry.
No, that's all right. I'll figure something out.
Memberships generally are relatively new for YouTube. I know they've been around for several years, but they're still relatively new. So there's going to be things that, with regards to reinitiating old memberships that have lapsed, they could refine it, I'm sure, and probably will over time. But for now, it's gone. This sounds par for the course, as in its clunky nature sounds about right.
I've been sitting out here in front of a store for 2 hours, not one order worth taking.
Does someone else just pick it up then?
Yeah, you travel to the other stores, it's the same thing. This is the main one here. But my wife was showing me these things on like these screenshots of some people that got like $500 orders, $485 orders. I'm like, that can't even be true. Because when the way Instacart is set up, it's like a free for all. Like an order will come in, and if you don't snatch it right away, somebody else will grab it. And that's it. It's not like DoorDash where you got a certain amount of time to either decline it or accept it. No, it's open game. Whoever grabs it, grabs it. And that's very stressful when you see one come in for $90, but you have to check how many miles, how many items are they getting, and what the tip is, and what store it is. So what you can do is just click on it right away. And then if you don't like it, you cancel it. But they only, after 15% cancellations, there's a risk of deactivation. And guess where I'm at? 15%. So this is a disappointment.
What is a disappointment, Neil?
Me being the only one in G Plus or whatever you want to call it, Teams, Meet, whatever. I go through this all the time. It's a poor showing. And I'm going to get on some people.
That's okay. That's no problem. We're doing our thing. We can do a bit of housekeeping, and then I'm going to moan about microphones for a bit. Why not? I've got a book that's in the process of being written, and we're in that limbo period, right? Now, we could just plod along like nothing's going on, but things are going on. We all know there's things going on. There's things in the pipeline, as they say. Now, those things are going to come to fruition shortly. But in the meantime, life goes on around us. It's spring. I'm always in a really upbeat mood in this particular part of the year, every year, almost without exception. It just brings me great joy. You know, it's still quite chilly as we go into spring, but it's lovely. The weather's clear, sunny, crisp.
Yeah, because it's really New Year. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Exactly. It feels new because it is, right? So I'm always motivated when it comes to this particular part of the year because I look forward to how much of the niceness there is ahead in the what you've just called New Year, spring. So I'm upbeat. I'm happy. Obviously, I've got things that are going on that's stressful, more so at the current time in my life because I've got other things that I don't normally do going on that are new and exciting. In the case of microphones, some people were like, new and exciting, it's just microphones. I'm like, yeah, but I've turned it into a little business as a side hustle to keep my head above water, where typically I'm just about keeping my head above water by e-begging. Literally. Well, I haven't had enough time to e-beg. That's not true. Times are tough. And therefore, while we're writing the book, there's no time to put in the extra effort with extra videos and things. So for that reason, I've fallen back on, well, I'm telling my daughters all this stuff. You need a couple of extra, strings to your bow. This is what I'm telling my kids. You need to be able to learn a couple of other skills. This is what I'm trying to justify them learning several languages. Like, what happens if all else fails and you don't become a famous YouTuber or a famous singer or whatever it is that your dreams and desires would lead you towards? You've got to be able to fall back and be something boring like an accountant. So you need other skills. And for me, it's sales. Or sales and purchasing in the case of what I'm doing currently. So I'm leaning back on that so that I can still keep my lights on because there's only so much e-begging you can do. It becomes distasteful.
Yeah, just extra 10 grand like some people. Just say, hey, you got 10 grand?
That's what we were talking about in the pre-show, right? Witsit was putting out a call to action to fund 10 grand, but he wouldn't say what for. Now, speculatively, someone in the pre-show was like, maybe he's getting divorced. Like, don't do that. That's not necessary. I know, strictly speaking, I'm now doing it in this live show. I'm now bringing it up, but I'm referencing back to someone else who I'm blaming for that. Now, we wouldn't in any way want to suggest that that is the case. But speculatively, people are going to speculate, right? And that's what the speculation has led to in my pre-show, even though the guys got told off. Now, if there was next man in line kicking this can, he could tell me off going, well, now you've just raised it to your audience, so they're going to scratch their head and speculate about it, aren't they? Now, that is not my desire. It's an example in this instance, right? It's a true example. I'm not just making it up. Someone did suggest that in the pre-show, right? But I don't suggest that. Whatever his reasons are, he probably has the same reasons as me. Why does he need money? Because he's poor. Same as me, right? Why do I have to take on a second job? Well, because I'm poor. Like anybody who does anything almost ever, you know what I mean? We're driven to survive. So, you know, him putting his hand out is his motivation is survival. Good for you, Witsit. You know, some of us have done other things that, you know, other people find quite egregious, actually. It's not all of you out there don't like me talking about microphones. But some of you really do hate me talking about them. Tough luck. In the meantime, we're writing a book, and it's going to be something that you can hopefully buy and support me that way. So if I tell you to go and buy a microphone, you're probably going to go, what? I don't want a microphone. But if I say go and buy my Flat Earth book, you can put it on your neighbour's table and absolutely rock their world, you might be more inclined as an audience of Flat Earth debate, right? Well, that'll be coming, and it's getting ever more polished as time goes by. We're going to be doing it later, in fact, today. So very exciting times. But in the interim, like a clockwork, like a clock, we're still going around, ticking through the motions, and we will still do a little bit of housekeeping. So feel free to pipe up if you choose to from the Discord server in relation to any questions, any answers to any questions that are asked over the next 10 minutes or so. So any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Ridiculous.
Anyone from Discord? Any updates? Anybody heard from Paul Voigt? It's only been 7 years.
Oh, he's the guy that got the housekeeping going, wasn't he? Kind of, in a way,
Is, yeah.
right?
Well, no, he is. I mean, well, no, the concept of housekeeping comes from Anthony Riley wanting to keep track of what we'd overcome in the arguments so that we wouldn't forget. And because he was sick of people rinsing and repeating. So let's say from Anthony Riley's perspective, this is Sleeping Warrior, for those who don't know. He's a YouTuber who's moved on to other things. Certainly still a flat earther, as far as I'm aware. I only spoke to him about a week ago. But anyway, the point being that he was sick of people rinsing and repeating the arguments. And he's like, how can we stop that from occurring? It's like, we must document the wins that we get so that they're kept in the mind's eye of the audience, or our audience. And it's not like, we will overcome how gravity is not a force, go through the argument for an hour or 5 with somebody to the point of concession or not. And then it just comes up the following day, yeah, gravity's a force again. You're like, no. We need something to mark these wins in a format that is self-explanatory, but invites, response. So the case of gravity, as I'm using it in the example, asking the question, is there any scientific evidence of gravity? Seems like a minor alteration, right? Well, no, it's fundamental to the question. The illusion of gravity that is a force or otherwise, for that matter, is given to you through the, let's call it illusion of science. Right? I was going to say that the suggestion of the gravity is illuminated by the suggestion of science. Right? There's a light that is seemingly cast upon the suggestion of gravity, with words like hypothesis and theory, where none exists because there is no force. It's not been a force for 110 years, and the bent pseudo-geometry of Einstein is a pseudo-geometry in mathematical descriptions of things that don't exist in reality. We don't have a fourth dimension. But asking for the scientific evidence of gravity puts your opponent in the position where they have to justify what they've been told about gravity with a scientific backing. So yeah, the questions, housekeeping questions, have been put into effect because of that rinse and repeat nature of dealing with the subject matter at hand. And to stop that, we've got a set of questions that we can ask on a daily basis that keeps everything we've covered in the forefront of people's mind. And it's the same. Simultaneously the same reason that we keep adding to them, because there are always new monumental defeats that people must face. And in terms of the phraseology of some of the more obvious ones, like any physical geometric sphere edge horizons, formerly known as Earth curve, there's quite a few little caveats that are adding in black swan elements to the question. Formerly known as Earth curve? What is it, refraction? I'm waiting for that guy to say, why do you say formerly known as Earth curve? It's like, well, yeah, because you dickheads used to think that there was a physical blockage to boats and stuff. And then we debunked it and you told us how refracted it was from then until now. And if you don't know what I'm talking
but
about,
I don't like that either. I don't like that formally known because it was never. And I don't like the freaking gravity being 110 years out of date. Because when you say that, it's like gravity was a real thing 110 years ago. We got to rephrase it.
What Neil is suggesting to my audience, see how many people are watching. Please share the show if you've not done so already. Do the call to action, but you might have only just got here. So, nudge, nudge, smash that share button. What Neil's suggesting is that when I say gravity as a force has been superseded 110 years ago, Neil's saying, well, just because it was suggested to be a force pre-Einstein doesn't mean it ever was a force. Now, if you can come up with a concise phraseology for me to ask these questions and point out in the question that there is an illusory force that was never really a force, but people think is a force, and you can think of as it a force, whatever, Neil, right? Yeah, I'm all for it, right? You help me out with my phraseology.
I'll get to work on that. Hey, remember I told you really quick that there's these people in what is it that whatever on those shorts showing that they got $400 orders from Instacart. Well, I just got one for $107.
Woohoo! Off you go. Yeah, getting orders is always fabulous. Although it's, in case anybody cares, which you probably don't, when you're flogging things, there's always the 1 in 10 rule applied to that at the back end. So it's like, I'll get to buy a microphone cheap for every 10 people I approach about their microphone sale. I might get to buy one for cheap, or for the price that's potentially profitable. But then for every 10 customers that come along that start looking at it within 10 to buy, one of them might buy it. And then further to that 1 in 10 rule, for every 10 that you sell, one will be a pain in the ass faulty customer and give you a pain, right?
Yes,
so it's the rule of 10. Well, today I had my rule of 10 apply. So I've actually, happy joy, I was telling my wife, I was like, I've sold 10. I was telling my mom too, I've sold 10 microphones. I'm really pleased, right? It's monumental, right? It's just because it's statistically significant, right? I can write that down and start relating things back to it. Well, the first thing I can relate back to is that faulty customer I was just talking about. So a guy calls me, or sends a refund request, says, this mic doesn't work, I can't get it to work. Now, bearing in mind, everything I've flogged so far, without exception, I have tested really thoroughly, to the point where I'm asking people on the show, you included, Neil, how does this sound? Right? Now, when I get yeah, it sounds all right, I can't really tell any different. You can obviously hear me. It obviously functions. It obviously works, right? That's the type of mic I sell. Now, I'm not cheap, but I do sell them working because they're thoroughly tested. Then I'll buy a few adapters for them so that they're almost, I say almost, idiot proof. So when it arrives, doesn't matter what you've got, I can guess that you'll have something like X, and it will probably require X adapter or connector. So if I make sure that all of them leave semi-idiot proof, I'm confident that I can justify my higher price when I add a load of money on the cheap price I bought them for, right? But then you get that 1 in 10 customer that's like, I can't get it to work. And you're back and forth with messages with a refund request over your head, trying to get this person to figure out how to get their microphone to work. Because they just want it to work. And I get that. I'm empathetic. And I like microphones like I like technology. So I don't mind talking to some faulty customer through his ignorance of his own equipment and trying to get it to work. Now, at the end of that process, if you fail, that is to say the faulty customer can't get what you damn well know is a working microphone to work, you just have to accept that, in this case, I'll have to give the guy his 50 quid back, and I'll have to ship it probably at my expense back to me, only to try and flog it again after doing a quick test to make sure, no, it absolutely still works. But that's life, right? That's part of business. If you want to have a second job to keep your lights on while you're a YouTuber, in this case for me, it's doing it with microphones. Now, I've got to try and keep this segue as short as possible, otherwise I definitely will annoy the people who couldn't care less about this particular endeavour I'm currently embarking on, because they just want to know about Earth being measured flat, which is perfectly reasonable. So it will come to a close now. I'm done moaning about my faulty customer. And I can get back to the agenda, which is telling people how Earth is measured flat. Should we pick one to tell him about and stick it in the housekeeping, Neil? Oh, he's off on his $110 super duper delivery, right?
Yes, I am. I had to pick up my wife because I can't do this on my own. It's a lot of things, but well, actually, it's 60 items, but that's not too bad. My wife's a machine.
Fair enough. Well, that'll go hopefully quite well for you. We'll carry on with a bit of housekeeping. Let's just check everyone's awake in Discord. You all awake in Discord? If I continue with housekeeping? No, I'm going to carry on talking about microphones. Literally no response. Is going to get a microphone discussion for the next 20 minutes, I assure you. Wakey wakey, Discord. No? Fair enough. Well, what I've been doing is putting all of my knowledge... Gotta make it stop. Go ahead, whoever that was. Who was that?
We're asleep at the wheel.
No, that's Neil you're thinking of. He spent a significant time in hospital as a result of that. It was very expensive. He wouldn't want to repeat it.
Too soon.
Is it too soon?
Good morning, guys.
Hey, Eli. How is it going?
Pretty all right. I'm actually going to Florida tomorrow.
What's Florida like in the spring?
As hot as it is any other time, I guess.
Ah, fair enough. Florida's well, I've been to Florida. It's always been beautiful and lovely and nice weather, more importantly than anything.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not true. I went for a hurricane party in Florida and was nailed into a bar in what's the islands? Is it the Keys?
Yeah.
Yeah, at one of the really southerly tips on one of those little islands. I was nailed in when a hurricane came. So it is lovely most of the time, and then they occasionally get a hurricane. So it's not all good. Kind of rough all over generally, because Kiwi's been sticking his weather reports up because he's in must be in Tornado Alley or something like that, because he's always showing how terrible his weather is.
Yeah. Always. Yeah, his weather is really mixy. Whereas here you get the four seasons, for him, it could be raining, it could be snow, nobody's business, and it could be a beautiful day, all in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I believe it. Totally believe it. I mean, it's a flat Earth.
I had hurricane parties in New Orleans too, all the time.
I don't doubt it. What's it like now? Is it anywhere in any state to be inhabited yet? Probably not. Anyway, that's depressing. Weather itself is a flat Earth proof. Refracted curvature was talking about it the other day. Talking about the horizontal planes that you talk about with the pressure gradiated. To describe them, you need horizontal planes of reference to describe them with. You're like, oh yeah, of course you do. Yeah, that makes total sense. All of the altitudes, everything's described with respect to sea level and flat planes of reference, including the layers, if you want to call them that, of gradiated pressure at the various different altitudes in bands that are horizontal. Right? So it's all with respect to a flat plane. Weather needs a flat Earth to describe it. Well, I'm glad that got everyone in the Discord server warmed up. So one of the things I've been trying to achieve, right, when I've been buying these microphones is knowing...
Oh, wait, time out, Nathan. Do you hear, you do?
I'm encouraging interruption at this point, Eli. I will talk about it. I'm not keen to, but if no one's talking back...
Oh, no, because Hayoko was talking. I wasn't sure if you were just, messing with him or...
Oh, no, I've got him on mute. Sorry, Hayuka.
No.
You were hot micing yesterday, so I had to put you on mute, but I only had you on local mute.
Am I on mute now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You're not hot
Okay.
micing anymore, fortunately.
I wondered, is it correct? Is it correct to say that a 1 degree angle to Polaris equals 69 miles on the ground?
69 statute miles.
Yeah, 69 miles. Statute miles, yeah.
Seems like you already know the answer, eh? Why are you asking? Why are you asking?
Sorry, I lost connection. Oh, but it's okay. It's okay to say that. Is that what?
Well, you phrased it like it was a question, and I'm asking, given that you know it's the answer.
Okay, that's fine, because there's some guys who are saying you've got no observable data for that, and they say that's not true.
Oh, I saw my Neil Young microphone. Fantastic. It was broken. It never worked. Couldn't get it working. I'm sorry.
I hope you made a
totally
profit and not a
distracted.
loss this time.
Just say again. Sorry, I was completely distracted. I sold a microphone. What was your
I
question?
said I hope you made a profit this time.
I always make a profit.
Also, so if you have a 1 degree angle to Polaris and it's 69 miles on the ground, then that gives you a distance to the equator, I guess.
But a second ago, it was phrased as though it was a question. Now, part of your question has become a statement of fact in your next question. So ultimately, you already knew, like I'd already answered you. You didn't respond when I first said it. Now you seem to be opening your mic and talking while I'm talking, pointing out what is going on. So you asked it initially as though it was a question, but it's fundamental, like foundational to the next question that you've asked. Now, I pointed out that it seemed like you already knew the answer to that question. It's the second interruption in me trying to point out what's going on to my audience. Fun though this isn't, we'll try a third time to get to the end of this single sentence, summarising this nonsense waffle that you seem to be asking me about, even though you already know the answers.
Okay, I was just checking because, sometimes I ask you a question
Checking what?
and you say, no, I never said that. Huh?
Checking what? You already know the answers to these questions that you're asking.
The 1 degree angle. Oh, hang on. I'm checking. It's okay to say that the 1 degree angle to Polaris is 69 miles on the ground. And then you have.
Is that a question or is that rhetorical? So is it foundational to your next statement, rhetorical, or a question that you want answering? Which one is it?
Oh, it's fundamental.
It's a bit of a stutter. This guy's a wanker. Yes, it's a bit of a stuttery mess when I ask you, is it rhetorical? Is it foundational to your next statement? Or are you actually inquiring because you don't know the answer? Which one is it? That wasn't a it's been repeated.
I said it's foundational.
Oh, right. So why did you ask it as a question, like it was an if statement, if it's foundational?
I explained that sometimes I ask you a question and you say you never said it. So I'm just checking.
So you need to check whether or not foundational statements have been stated by me?
Yep.
Why?
Because sometimes...
Do you need to go to the toilet, sir? Do you have a slight bit of constipation?
No.
Then, why are you struggling for that next word there, sir? Thinking on your feet, not a bit of a struggle for you there, stuttery? Or is it just talking through me while I humiliate you with your nonsense waffle that's trying to test me? Yeah, we don't need to test me on whether or not I've stated foundational statements there, Hugo. It's not necessary.
Okay, and the circumference of the...
So sit down and shut up. Yeah? I'm not going to start testing you on stuff. There's no need for this. So do you want to sit down and shut up?
Do
you stutter when I humiliate you with your abject nonsense about foundational statements that I have maybe stated or not? Shut up. You're getting told what to do now. Do you understand me? Shut up. Sit down.
But you have a distance to the equator.
Oh, do you not understand why being told to shut up means? You got nothing of value.
I heard 10th man told you. I heard.
God, let's shut him up. Dickhead. What an idiot. Got nothing of value other than to test me on statements that he asks us questions but knows to be foundational when quizzed, with a lot of stuttering and sounding constipated. Now he's telling me what 10th Man's told me, so he can quiz me about my education from 10th Man. This is not a show where you test Nathan about foundational statements you know to be true before you're asking me about them. Yeah, that's a shit test. Everyone know what a shit test is? Yeah, that's what women do on men. Now, I'm not going to be shit tested by some little pervert. Yeah? Some little masochistic pervert that gets off on this stuff? No, thank you. Get lost. Now, if you actually want to know something that's not foundational to your next bleeding statement, don't ask me about it. Get lost. Go and entertain yourself, amuse yourself. That would be to masturbate mentally, metaphorically, elsewhere. Yeah, sold the Neil Young microphone. Woohoo! I'm going to show you. I'm going to put it on camera. I'm so excited. So I hate it when you can't get them working. Obviously, you want to keep them all, right? And if they don't sell, you don't mind if they don't, fail. So this microphone, let's grab it. Oh, my panels are falling everywhere. So this is the Neil Young microphone. On my eBay store, I got a picture of one of the band members holding it. But it doesn't work, so it's not a keeper. So I started off at about 100 quid for this, and it's just not worth that if it's not working. And I've seen people advertising them for like 60 or 70 quid. But the reason I wanted to put it on camera is because I've got to be honest, this is possibly one of the most beautiful microphones in terms of its physical appearance. And in a way, even though it doesn't work, it's one way you kind of would still want to keep it anyway because it just looks so pretty. But yeah, it's got like a base that attaches to a hinge, and then that screws in with like a normal microphone attachment on the bottom of the base, same attachment that you'd have like for a microphone clip. But this is the Neil Young microphone, and it's obviously got quite a feminine shape to it. Got some nice curves to it. Can you see that? Let's put it against my t-shirt. There we go. So you can see the shape of it. But this is just sold on eBay, which I'm not at all heartbroken about. Whereas with a lot of the mics I sell, I am actually heartbroken because I wanted, you buy them and use them. And oh, this is cool. I want to keep this. You kind of lose track of the purpose of doing it, just to keep the lights on. But you do have to let them go. Whereas with this one, it doesn't work. So you're like, I don't mind letting it go. Maybe it's just the switch that's broken and someone will get it working because the capsule seems fine. I've not tested it, but I've checked it and it's all wired up perfectly fine. Anyway, so it's been a microphone show. Smash that super chat if you want me to talk about microphones that little bit less. It's not true. I'll still talk about them. I'm passionate about them. So anyway, that's the Neil Young microphone that I've just flogged. And yeah, I'll stick it in a package and it'll go off to its new eBay buyer home later on today after the show's ended. Happy days, happy days. I've bought a shed ton of microphones. So over the last, 2-3 days since Easter, I've lined up a whole pipeline of stuff to buy. And while people have been bored of me talking about microphones when it's been me selling them, you'll get a lot more bored about me buying them while I'm haggling with people over turds to polish, which is a lot of them, what a lot of them are. They're old-fashioned 60s and 70s mics that have definitely got a purpose. And, using probably late 80s, early 90s mic, this Neumann that I'm using, is still an old vintage mic if you want to look at it in one way. And it's definitely got life in it. And I see the same for all of these mics. These mics might be doing podcasts, might be doing what we're doing here, right? Talking to people about how Earth is flat. And all of them, as I hold on to this thing with a bit of nostalgic history in my eyes as I'm holding it, thinking, all of these mics have done something, right? They've all got a bit of history attached to them. This has been producing some sound to go onto some tape recorder or onto some, in the case of this setup, right, onto some digital recording format. And they're all, to me, like a little piece of history. And I want all of the mics like these ones behind me. You can probably see this one with a little sock on it. This is the ABBA mic. I want them all to continue doing exactly that, right? Creating a little bit of history, dedicating something to a bit of tape or a bit of digital media so that it can be viewed or heard, in this case, by others. So I don't know, I like the historic element of this particular type of artifact, a microphone, especially when they're used, because they've already got a certain amount of nostalgia attached to whoever has used it in the past and loved it, in the same way as I love this microphone, right? Because it's doing what it's doing now, and you seldom think about that when you're on the receiving end of a video like this. If you're a viewer of a YouTube video, you don't think of all of the work and skill and dedication from engineers and then people in the factory line actually producing the damn thing, so that it can be sat at the end of a boom pole producing a sound so that you can listen to me talk about how I've just flogged a Neil Young microphone on eBay. But to me, that's something very, very special, and something that I hope I brush off on the people that buy things from me when it comes to these things, because I've only got microphones to sell. It's not like I'm flogging anything else other than microphones. And it's because I enjoy them. You know, I enjoy the basic principle of being able to communicate via, in this case, an absolute technological marvel, the internet, with OBS, with Voice Meter Banana, with a nice Neumann microphone. This is an absolute technological wonder. So for me to be able to tell you that Earth is measured flat via all of that equipment might be a similar destiny for something like this, if it worked, which this one doesn't. It's broken. So there we go. So this one definitely isn't going to be doing that, but it's going to be on someone's mantle, I would imagine, because it's so pretty. Someone's just bought it because they like the look of it and like the nostalgic fact that it's, you know, used by Neil Young. There we go. That's my nostalgia for the day. Other than testing us, right, what is it that the ballers have got to do other than try and wind us up now? Test our knowledge. And if it was somebody with good intentions, right, when QE does that, because in some ways there's a very fine line between how QE behaves with me and someone like, not necessarily Hugh, but someone similar, right, where they want to test your abilities, you know, push you. Well, sometimes a mentor, which QE is to me, do very similar things, right? They do want to push you, sometimes push you a little bit over the edge to make a point clear, or humble you, whatever the reason. But typically with a mentor, they've got your best, your best of intent they have got, and they've got your best of intentions at heart when they do that. Whereas when our opponents do it, what is the reason? What motivates them? Now, I'm not suggesting we all fallaciously appeal to their motivation as some argument response. I'm suggesting that it's worth pondering why someone might do this. Yeah? What is it that fulfills a desire in someone like Hayuka to test someone like me? Now, he's not trying to better me, I know that for certain. So what's in it for him is what I immediately respond to that with. You know, empathically, I go, well, what purpose does this serve for you? How does this benefit you? What is in it for you? Now, I'm not going to direct this to him rhetorically, because his motivation from a nefarious perspective has already been made clear. I've elucidated that through my questioning about his questioning. That's already been done. But from an audience perspective, you can do the same, right? You can reflect inwardly, like we were discussing on yesterday's show, about why someone would want to project their pain directly onto you if you're a flurf, or you've been asked, like in the case of that fittest flat earther. You've got the flat earth. I'm just putting my back on my ab mic. I'm fussy about dust getting in it. You've got to question why they would want to share their pain with you, which is all this is. Why does the pastor want to project out his pain onto his congregation, only to tell his congregation that he's already looked into it? Why would somebody behave that way? Now, I get that with Puka, it might seem like I'm playing dumb. There's a perception of the guru. It doesn't take long. You come into, hey, Chocolate, this arena as an upstart. And then a couple of years in, you're established as a community member. 5 or 6 years in, you're an expert. By the time you're 10 years into flat earthism, you're a guru, right? Now, I recognise there's a certain level of importance. I've been told this for the last couple of months, right? And it's been forced into me that I must recognise and respect the responsibility that I've rightfully earned. But there's a status that you achieve, and therefore that's why I'm being tested by someone like Hayuka. As much as me now pointing it out and glorifying it is going to piss someone like that off royally. I don't care. I know my status. I'm not afraid to highlight it. and highlight the reason people want to test me. Now, I don't mind admitting ignorance. I don't know everything. I found myself in a guru position because of being here for 10 years, and mostly I get by because of the information I've had given to me by the people around me, smarter than myself. But isn't that true of everybody always? Most of the time?
Yeah. And good morning.
Hello. Point being, once you recognise that, you can then start turning the finger or turning the assessment back on the person that's sharing their pain, as we call it. Why would you want to do this? Yeah? What are you going to get out of it? Now, you're easy to boil down because it's mentally easy to cope with. They're just paid to do it, right? They're just motivated by money. People are just that simple. It's just that black and white. If someone gives them money and they go and do it, it's like, nah. In life, currency has many, many forms, and the little pieces of paper that we purchase things with isn't actually very high, you'd be surprised, in people's pecking order. What motivates them? Money they think motivates them. But it's often not. It's often something much, much closer to their heart or mind than merely the means of purchasing things. Whereas when people are like, paid shills, it's like, oh, come on. Don't boil this down to something so egregiously simple as this person was motivated by money and just did it for cash. No. Right? I don't know, I feel lucky that I recognised this many years ago. That I can't remember, it was a different guru that actually probably told me this, right? I don't want to give credit, but I'm just going to suggest that it came to me via a guru, as that's the topic. But there's more to life than money. And you have to kind of strike a balance between what you want out of life. Now, I'm very happy at the moment because I've got a very happy family. I sleep well. I'm tired. I do have to do a lot of work. But I get to spend all the time in the world that I want to with the two little sods that make a shit ton of noise. You know what I'm getting at. In other words, you can get annoyed with your kids when they're around you, but ultimately there's a reason they're around me, not in school, because I want them to be there. And being able to do that in life is the reason that I haven't got a great deal of money to afford to buy maybe a whole warehouse full of new microphones, right? Well, life has more to offer than just the means of purchasing things. Some people recognise that really early on. Some people never recognise it and they die thinking that they need to keep a few pennies one side. You can't take any of it with you. But like I say, other things motivate people. Shame motivates people greatly. Yeah? The fear of humiliation. I can't believe, now I've started looking into this, what a massive driving force that is in people's lives. Right? People are generally self-absorbed. They think everything revolves around them and everything is directed towards them. So some minor little glance up from someone else while they're thinking about something else, people perceive to be directed at them. The same with some
That's
utterance
probably,
of flat earth. Go ahead, Chocolate. Is that Chocolate? Or was it Eli? I didn't actually genuinely know who that was. Oh, Eli's on server deafen, so it must have been Chocolate.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think in the past maybe decade, I think one of the biggest motivators for a lot of these people that consider themselves our opponents are to make us sound wrong or to prove us wrong. Because there's this notion that, oh, because somebody thinks the earth is flat, they have to be wrong about everything. It's the strangest thing in the world, you know? Like what's the motivation behind that? When we were literally people that just learned the same things that you guys did. You know, that's always been what's weird to me. It's like we're all coming into this information, and for some reason you're taking it in a way in which you think, oh, we know something better than you. No, we're here talking to you about it so that you can understand it. You know, and it's I don't know, it's strange, but I think you're right that might be a slightly bigger motivation than just plain money. You know what I mean? I
Oh,
don't know if that makes sense.
absolutely. Yeah, it drives them absolutely nuts, and they need somebody to project that onto. We're there lapping that up like we showed on yesterday's video with that fittest flat earther guy. Right? He's there for the guy, the pastor, to project onto. He's there willing and available.
And I kind of felt for that guy because what he said in the video, he's like, I'm back in church because of flat earth. And I go to the church and then I get insulted by the guy who's supposedly the leader of this congregation. That's crazy. And it is. It really is.
Yeah. To the audience, it's worth asking before you start engaging with people about flat earth, if they're already asking the question or demoting it, demeaning it, rather than trying to overcome their concerns about it, recognize that it is their concerns. Even if they're saying, oh, these flat earthers think that, and then insert their concern here, and then they look at you to answer that concern that they've got.
Yep. And I've got proof of that because once I started talking to my coworkers about it, I wasn't the type to just run up on them and ask them, well, all right, let me take that back. For a little bit, I was running up on people, just be like, hey, excuse me, where's the earth? Where's the curve of the earth? Like real silly with it. But after a while, I left that alone. And then they almost took the reins over for me. They started coming to me and asking me questions and wanting to know, oh, where's the flatness and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, is this bothering you now? Is that why are you talking? I thought you didn't like talking about this. Why are you talking to me about it? All right, so let's talk about it while we are. People are funny with this, man. The amusement goes beyond the Discord and the internet servers. Like when you do this in real life, like when you talk to people about this stuff in real life, it becomes very entertaining and amusing. Sometimes a little sad because it's weird to see how people react to just having a conversation about a subject, just talking about the ground. They take it to a whole extreme, but I understand the ground has become a religion to a lot of people. Because
Well,
if
the
you
ground has
believe that the
become...
ground is a ball going somewhere, that's a religion.
I was about to say the ground has become the sky. You know when you say the ground's going somewhere? Well, that somewhere is a place like on screen, right? I know it's the pancake that we oppose also, but nevertheless, the somewhere is the sky vacuum. So the ground becomes, well, we used to ask the question, let's put it a different way, Chocolate. Why is it that we're always talking about the lights when we're talking about the debate about the nature of the ground? It's like, well, because the ground has become the light, the sky, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, look up in the sky. You can see the earth is a globe. Like, huh? The ground isn't in the sky. Why would I look up to the sky to know what the ground is? That's a little weird. Right? So, yeah.
But the ground is in the sky, in their mind. And the lights in the sky are the ground. The lights in the sky are soil, as far as you are concerned, if you're a baller.
Yeah. More ground.
Yeah, the lights are more ground. Yeah, that's bonkers, isn't it? Now you think about, on reflection, you look up at Mars and go, well, that's a load of soil in the sky.
That we could send a rover to or maybe a helicopter. Let's forget that there's no atmosphere up there, or very little, according to them. But yeah, let's send a helicopter and a rover to the ground that's in the sky. Yeah, it's a little strange.
Yeah, ignoring the straight-up second law of thermodynamics violation that is the gas not filling a sky vacuum, the lights at night are people's perception of soil being the sky. When you think about it in those terms, that's what you think the sky is. You think the sky is the ground. You think the sky is the soil, and that we're just amongst the soil that is the ground, that is part of the sky. So the soil comes from the sky in their rhetoric, quite figuratively and literally. Yeah? The ground itself has arrived from the frickin' sky in their rhetoric. It has though, hasn't it? Yeah, bonkers. it's really interesting to look back on it. But when you do, you go, wow, I was so naive, I was so deceived, I was so stupid. And then you go, hang on a second. Is that why I'm having this projected onto me by this third party? Yes. Yes, it is. Being at one with that means you can recognise that you don't need to project that onto the third party that is us as a flat earther when someone comes across it and goes, I don't want to deal with this. Flat earthers are stupid. Yes, that's a much better way of dealing with flat earthers are stupid. Let me tell you how these stupid flat earthers thought what I was thinking 5 seconds ago and they were wrong about it.
Yeah.
So there we go. I tried to get my microphone sentence out about 4 times and Eli interrupted it. But after doing a bucket ton of research on microphones, right, what I've found is that there's a certain break point where they become almost worthless because people don't know if they work or not. So people don't, they go from being worth, say, £30 or £40 actual value to nothing right quick because people won't take the risk on whether or not a microphone works. So then you go, okay, well, if you find some obscure microphone, you can do a bucket ton of research. Let's say it takes 15 to 20 minutes of scrolling through forums and finding people's opinions and people who've used them and their discussions on them and who made them and how they made them. And you can actually fairly quickly figure out if something's nice or not, right? And then buy it and then sell it for its actual value, showing that it works. And in so doing, you can, I don't know, make 10 or 15 pounds profit if it's a £40 item, which is lovely, right? And that's all I'm trying to achieve. So in some of the adverts I've been doing for these microphones, I'm saying exactly that. This is a really good mic. It's just nobody knows it's a really good mic. So here's how it sounds. Now, it'd been nice to have done that with the Neil Young microphone, but I never got to hear how it sounded. But with all the others, I do a quick sound check. I did it with a Philips yesterday, and I got the reaction in the advert. So I'm saying some of the people on my panel said they couldn't tell the difference between this and my Neumann. And then I cut to, in the advert, in the video in the advert on eBay, I've got a little video of the mic working while I'm talking to Neil on it, and Neil's going, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I can't even tell the difference. And then someone from Discord going, yeah, that sounds really nice. While I'm talking on some Philips condenser from the 1970s. You're like, great. So I can trim that out and someone can say, well, at least at some level, some people can't tell the difference between that and a really expensive microphone. Now, obviously, the really expensive microphone's better. It is better. Or otherwise I'd be using the Philips, wouldn't I? I'm not. But the point is, it's showing that it works. Functionally, it's good, sounds nice enough, and I can then stick that in the advert. Well, there's a whole bunch of them, so if you hated me talking about mics, you're going to see a whole bunch of 60-second or less videos, because that's what eBay accepts, going up on my channel. And fortunately, the YouTube algorithm is smart enough to not deliver them to you. So if you're here for flat earth content, they won't deliver them to you for the most part. It might suggest them, you might see it in your subscription feed, but it's not going to, ram them down your throat. But I do need them because I need them to go in the adverts, and until the book's written, I need the revenue, unfortunately. Now, I'm not going to suggest that, you need to start smashing the super chat to bolster my revenue, or I'm not going to start a GoFundMe like Witsit did. I can just make a few mic videos. Now, if we can all agree, that's my audience and myself, that you won't mention the mic videos going out that are like, this isn't Flat Earth. He hasn't mentioned Flat Earth once. He said it got a really good noise feedback rejection. He said there was great gain before feedback. What does that got to do with Flat Earth? Nothing. It's just a side hustle to keep me going while we write a book. Chill. It's all good. Doesn't mean we're not going to make Flat Earth content on a daily basis. I want to be sat here. This is fun. So if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably go nuts. So, the whole purpose of doing the mic videos is to make sure I can still do this. Yeah, not the other way around. I'm not segueing into mics. I'm already kind of getting a bit sick of it when I've got to that 1 in 10 customers that's not happy for whatever reason, faulty or otherwise. The customer, that is, not my product. But anyway, I want to be sat here doing flat earth videos. That's the main aim. The initial reason for getting mics as a thing to sell was because I wanted to improve the mic, to improve the quality of the sound on the show when it was a bit honky from the old Rode NTG3, which is a broadcast mic designed to be outside and therefore has a very elevated bass response, which some people like for voiceovers, but for me it just made me sound hoinky, like that's all I could ever hear from the NTG3. Now, could I have just EQ'd it out? Yes. But instead, I went through the endeavour of starting a little new business and getting myself a nice new Neumann for next to nothing. So that's what I've done instead of just putting a little cut in that particular frequency. Because that's what normal people do. The real reason is because, and this is true for any microphone, right? Why does any microphone get any job for any purpose ever? It's because it makes life easier. So, for instance, if there's a particular mic that will make a cymbal sound brighter, because it's a particularly bright microphone, and what you want out of that cymbal is a bright sound, then not having to do anything on the desk, that's to say not having to twiddle a little treble knob to make it go higher in that particular region of frequency, because you just plug the mic in and it does it automatically because it's already got that characteristic. An engineer will pick that mic to do that job every single time. Now, if I can find a mic that sounds good on my voice, it has the same effect when I go out to anybody else if I'm going out and doing promotion for the book. Probably thinking, is this going somewhere? Yeah, absolutely is. So you're like, well, what's the point? Well, I say I could just put a little frequency cut in and the NTG3 would sound great, right? No. When I'm out on someone else's show, I have to rely on the sound source, me, going through the electricity lines, if you will, digitizing and coming out the other end and still sounding nice, without them at the other end doing what I would do with my old mic, which is put a little dip in the frequencies that aren't nice. So you want a mic that's got that characteristic already. For me, so far, this one that I'm using does that. So what does this all mean? It means that when I'm going on, let's say, Mark Sargent's show, so I get in touch with Mark and say, right, book's coming out imminently. We need to set you up with an affiliate link so that when the book sells, you get 30%. Then, when that's all done and it's out, I need to come on your show. When I do go on his show, I want to know that Mark's audience will receive what I say in the highest fidelity. It sounds nice. There's nothing honky or hoiny about my voice when it's coming through Mark's equipment, for example. So that was the whole purpose of doing this. Literally. And whilst doing it, I knew that I was going to be voicing over the book. So, for that reason, I've also gone out of my way to find a second mic specifically for doing voiceovers. That is to say, adding on top of a video, if it's an edited video, I used to just use the iPad mic. Well, now I've bought a second mic, an AKG, that is, it's dormant. Its only purpose will be for edited videos and the voicing over of the book once it's done. So again, all microphone related. Yeah, having researched what I would need to do a voiceover in an exceptionally well-treated room, which this is. Yeah, and when I'm saying to people on my own side that are helping me do the book and edit the book currently, that, oh, well, could I not just get AI to voice the book for the ebook? And they're all like, no, people will expect you to have read this book into the, equipment and, make it and edit it and turn it into an ebook or whatever you call it, the read version, spoken version of the book. So I know that that's done. There's going to be something I'm going to be doing. So again, I've picked microphones for that. So it's one of those things that's segued into me selling them naturally, right? Because I want a good microphone to do a voiceover for the book. Now, eventually, I'll flog all this crap and it'll keep the mortgage paid temporarily. And then the book will start doing that, right? The book will sell. And then every so often I'll look and go, oh, great, I've got 30% of whatever the book's sold for. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I haven't got a clue. But that'll be the supplementary revenue that will keep me going and keep the lights on, where currently flogging microphones at a small profit is doing that. So I won't be talking about microphones forever. I know there's people out there that want me to, it could last forever, and they're just dreaming of me talking about microphones forever. But they're probably ballers who'd rather I was doing that than talking about how Earth's measured flat. So I know who you are. Yeah, I see you in the comments. No, I don't mind you talking about microphones at all. Yeah, it's because it means I'm not talking about Earth being measured flat, right? Don't think I don't see you. Yeah, I know your game. Yeah, it's not going to happen. That's just there to supplement this. This is the main deal. This is the main affair. Hello, Brian. Oh, hello, Nathan. To be sure, I'll be busy for a few minutes here, and then I'll get back to you. No worries, Brian. It's all good. It's good to have you. Aye, it's good to be here. Jolly good. 98
Excuse
people.
me, can I?
You're getting better at that.
I've stopped doing a Northern Irish accent. Ginger and civility. Whoever that was, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Hello. Thanks for all your work. First off.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I just wanted to segue back to the mics. Hopefully it won't bother or it will, the people interested in that topic. But I think I have an idea to get you away from that topic as well, in terms of I'm a translator, and we'd like to translate the book to Spanish. And I have a very wonderful co-translator, and she's got a very beautiful Spanish voice. And yeah, I can record. I'm a musician, so I've pretty dialed into that. And just wanted to touch base with you. I tried to get in touch, but it's been difficult. I'm busy and so on and so forth.
How do you say your name? Ventriloquim? How do you say it?
Ventriloquorum.
Ventriloquorum. Wow, I was never going to get that the first time. Beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. A lot of people have problems with it.
I love it.
It's a mouthful, yeah.
Oh, I love it. It's brilliant. Yeah, I definitely would endeavour to get in touch with you and Spanish translations and other language translations. Maybe not from yourself, but definitely that sounds like something that needs to be done. Spanish would be one of the first languages I'd want it to be in as a second language, as in first English, then Spanish. You know what I mean?
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, we'd really love to do it because we're really interested in that. The way you put it and the fact that you're going to be recording it with your voice is really nice as well, because I think you've mentioned you're not quite the writer, you're more the speaker. And so that makes the audio version even more interesting, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's got my name in it, I'm on the cover and it's by Nathan Oakley, I should really read it rather than... I did actually initially contact a voice actor and everyone was like, I got a total score. And I'm like, well, I need to find out. I thought I was just going to hand it off to a voice actor. They're like, no, no, you're going to be reading this, I was promptly told. But there we go.
Those are the spin-offs, yeah.
But I do need someone else in a different language to speak it, or read it, I should say. Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely drop me a line. Yes, I will inquire with you once it's done.
Okay, great.
For sure.
Yeah, how should I do that best?
Just drop me an email, nathanoakley1980@aol.com.
Perfect. Okay, we'll be in touch then.
Marvellous. Oh, I'm glad that's nice. What a nice way to round out the show. Hello, Brian.
I was washing my hands. Come on. Yeah, when you called me there.
That's all right.
That was a nice way he put it. You're not so much the writing type. You're more of a big mouth.
Yeah. Yes. I brushed over that quite quickly. It's nice that you could re-highlighted it where I brushed over it quite abruptly.
I laughed out loud when
I'm sure you did. What Brian's been doing, right, while we've been going through this bastard, I can't believe I have to explain this. Thanks, Brian. So while we're going through the book, editing it, right, I don't say very much because it's other people's input brushing up on what's already on paper. So there's quite frequent periods where I'm sat doing literally nothing, not saying anything. And lots of things are happening around me with maybe Adam reading it and Flatsy typing and making alterations, or QE reading it and Adam making alterations, but ultimately me with, like I am now actually, I'm kind of taking the pose, should be on camera, sort of sat like this while I'm watching things happen. Now initially while that was going on, it was incredibly stressful because I was trying to get involved and I'd stick my 2 pennyworth in constantly to the point where I say tearing my hair out, I haven't got any, but if I had, I'd be tearing it out. And it was driving me up the wall initially. Now, after time, I've chilled out, but there's a balance because of Brian, he's doing it just to piss me off, where I've got to put in at least a couple of words, otherwise Brian will say, yeah, this isn't really Nathan's book. Yeah, it's really QE and Adam's book, isn't it? And he's just doing it to piss me off and wind me up. And he knows he's successful. You can probably hear it in my stuttery voice. Cheeky sod.
Yeah, I'll often ask Nathan how his book is going.
Yes, very funny. Also, Brian, very funny.
How's your book going, Nathan?
Are you joining in with Adam's
Would be
book, he'll
impossible.
say? You're joining in with Adam's book that he's writing for you.
Yeah.
Very amusing. But they have. I give them as much, for that reason, right? You can hear it on an almost daily basis when I talk about the book. I talk about my getting by with a bit of help from my friends and the amount of man hours that people are putting in. The reason it's gone from being just a casual flat earth book to a reference book is because of Adam. Not so much Brian. He's more of a hindrance, I would say. He's not taking
No,
that
you see, I can't join in on it. I can be there and say this or that, but I can't really join in on it because what I would do and what QE and Adam would do are two different things. I would say things, you know what I mean? So the problem is that even if Adam says to me, "How would you? What about this part? What let's say he or you know this kind of thing," I have to keep whatever I'm going to say very short and sweet because my way of going about things is different, and how I write something will be different. So I kind of can't join in on it. You know, there's nothing I can do in that way.
Clear as mud.
Hello, I had a question about purchasing a mic from you. I'd like to support your all your work, and I wondered if you had something for sale that would be good and simple to hook up to a computer without additional equipment.
No. In simple answer, definitely not. They're all in requirement of an interface of some description between the computer and the mic. Don't buy a mic from me, right? That's not what I want people to do to support me, right? If you want to support me, buy the book when it comes out. Because you're
Well,
here,
I'm gonna do that too, but
yeah, do that. So, in the meantime, go ahead. Go ahead, do whatever that was. No? Yeah, I mean,
would you
that's
have a
very sweet of you.
recommendation for a decent mic that was simple to hook up to the computer to use to record?
Yeah, I don't have any. You're talking about a USB mic, and I've decided to specialise in more obscure microphones than USB mics. Not to demean anybody who uses a USB mic, they're wonderful. But that's just not what I'm flogging. But that's not what I want from my audience specifically, right? So when I'm putting out videos with the mics and I'm putting out a link with the eBay link to the mic, it's not necessarily because I'm hoping to reach my flat earth audience to sell them a mic. I know that YouTube are smart enough to distribute that to people looking at mics. Therefore, they might be interested in buying a mic. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're genuinely interested in buying a mic, great, wonderful. Go to my eBay store. Everyone buy a mic. Wonderful. That'll be awesome. But that's not the purpose. And me wanting to talk about it on the show is because I'm just doing it. And it's a show that I run. So therefore, you talk about what you're doing. And obviously, if I can intertwine that with the fact that I use a mic and I talk about flat earth through it, it's pretty loose, right? I'll link it back. But it's not for the aim. It's not for the purpose of flogging mics to my flat earth audience. That's not why I'm doing it. Not at all. But I'm smiling because it's really sweet of you to say that. And I appreciate it. And it warms my heart that you'd even say that, right? Yeah? Thank you. I appreciate it. And it is indicative of the type of support I get from the Flat Earth community. I just don't want it to change from, we're supporting you because we really appreciate that you've spent 10 years studying Flat Earth to, what's that? You've spent the last month learning about mics. I'll support. No. That's just keeping the lights on. And my audience, I want them to buy a book. Right, that's what it's for. That's the only reason I'm flogging mics, so that the book hasn't got me. Although Brian does step in because I'm not getting in the way of the process with my stress and frustration with how it's being edited. Right, I'm getting out of the way so that it can go carry along with the polishing process and become the best book ever, ever. Right, I'm not going to intervene with that. With my woes about not being able to pay bills, I can just do something about that that's ancillary to flat earthing. But like I say, the fact that you're part of this community and want to support me in that way is so sweet. It literally warms my heart that you've said that. So thank you. I appreciate the sentiment.
Nathan, what's up?
Sky?
I got two questions for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, one, based on the incident last week, are you going to be going back to that place? Are you going to have your shows on Friday or?
Oh, what? By what incident? You mean me using the word nigger repeatedly?
24/7. Yeah.
It depends if they'll have me back or not. It's a wake-up call where contextually using it like I just did a moment ago once is just about okay, and using it repeatedly to diffuse someone else's use of it isn't okay. Now, on my own server, I might be able to toe that line and get away with it, but in reality, I can't do that either here because literally only yesterday this server operator told me off also. Subtly, but I still got an ear bending, right? The ear bending being, don't do that here, from the server operator. This is not my server. I don't run it. It's not my rules. And doing that got me in trouble not only on their server, which they may well never have me back on, and I wouldn't blame them, because I've found out subsequently just how big a deal it is from many different people who have informed me in no uncertain terms why my egregious use of that word or my overuse of that word was wholly inappropriate. Now, am I going to apologise for it? Yeah. If somebody is sincerely offended by my use of that word, I will sincerely apologise to them, because my intention isn't to cause offence, it was to diffuse the offence intended by my opponent when playing a soundbite using that word. That was my intention. And I'll explain that to somebody. And if it is required that an apology is needed, I'll give it. Now, if in the case of politics, to answer your question, they say, we don't want you back, I would take that on the chin. I'd say, I understand, and I would accept that. If they have me back, I'll go on bended knee, cap in hand, and apologise profusely for my breaking of their terms of service and hope they'll welcome me back. But if they don't, I would totally understand. I don't know what the answer is to that in terms of whether or not I'll ever find out. I may never ever find out. It might just be, I know I am banned, though. Let's put it that way.
I did ask them to unban you, though, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I can understand why. I've broken the rules. Sometimes you have to take it on the chin that you've done something wrong, and you have to accept the consequences of that. Yeah? That's life.
And yeah, you broke the rules, but like the whole thing, like I got it in context, and I wasn't offended at all because I understood exactly what you were doing and why you did it. Because some other idiot came in and did it, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's what we're gonna do, and then that was your response, and to me it was funny, but I can understand why some people might get offended or whatever, but to me it's whatever, man.
It's a
But they
charged
really
word.
like banned you from there for that. It's just like it wasn't just like a one day don't come back.
That's the terms of service.
Perma ban?
That's their terms of service that were broken. So they're well within their rights, totally justifiable for banning me. So you're like, when you say for that, well, what, for a complete violation of the terms of service that I agreed to? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, the other problem is everyone lives in a different country, right? That's another issue.
Yeah. I don't know if it's an issue. They're actually quite black and white with their terms of service. I had to agree to them when I joined their server, like everyone has to here.
Right, but in America, we have freedom of speech, whereas in the UK, you guys don't have that.
We do have freedom of speech.
Of course you don't. Come on.
We do. Look
at your president. Or your prime minister. He's a tyrant.
Okay, the reason you're saying that is because
nobody has freedom of speech anymore. Nobody has freedom of speech anymore. The issue with that, the issue of what you did, Nathan, is it's a broader issue. It's about reputation. I mean, the server doesn't want to have the reputation of being a server where people can drop the N-word like that. Even regardless of the context, the outsider doesn't know the context of who or why you use that word. And because you did something most people would not do, even though Chocolate said he didn't find any offence in it, which I knew kind of without even him saying it. I suspected it, and I could say the same to Eli or D Rose. Point is that the reputation of the server, they don't want their reputation being right. Even though it's a Discord thing, they still don't want their reputation being that on that server people use that word.
Yep.
If you know what I mean, and it's not like.
But it was in response. It was in response to something. To somebody who didn't even have the balls to say the word himself. He had to play an audio of somebody saying it. Right? He's like, what? I don't.
Yeah, that's true. Like, don't get me wrong, that's totally true. That he played the audio, and that Nathan responded to the audio flippantly. Like, but what can you do? I suppose.
No, it wasn't necessarily. I know what you're saying by flippantly, like over the top, and yeah, but it was more that the guy who's using that is using it for the reasons he's succeeded with. Now, me, I was obviously ignorant to those facts when I've responded the way I have. However, the reason I did respond the way I did was because the clip that was played using that word, it's really hard to muster an intonation when using a word that conveys an emotion or a feeling towards an entire race of people. Now, if you're just trying to do that on the fly, like you said, the guy hadn't got the balls. I don't think it's that he hadn't got the balls. It's just that the what's the word? Venom. There's a word I use sometimes when I'm talking to ballers. The venom that was in the guy who used the word in the clip. Now, it's not like he was saying it in anger, but there's just something about somebody who's obviously a racist when they use that word. It just cuts a little different. Do you know what I mean?
They mean it.
They mean it, yeah.
The negative intention.
Yes.
Is it racist though if you're using it to another white person? I understand if the other person is black and they get offended, but if it's another white guy and you say that to him and they get offended,
it's a racist word. No matter how, this is what's been explained to me. I can only answer this because so many people have laid it out for me. Doesn't matter how I use it or what context I put it in. It has the word connotations. Nigger is a charged word no matter how you mean it when you say it. Me explaining that when some people say it, they mean it like this doesn't change how the word gets taken regardless of who's saying it or how they're saying it. It's a charged word. Doesn't matter if I don't want it to be or I try and diffuse that charge. It's still charged whether I want it to be or not. There is no defusing it is the point.
Well, it's of course it's a charged word. I mean, the fact that racism still exists to the degree it does in just the United States, now I think people in the United States, they view the whole thing a bit different now than they did maybe some time back, but it still exists. So it's going to be a charged word for you because you don't, in fairness, you don't live in that level of racial tension that they have in the United States. You know what I mean? And that's the thing about it. For you, it's like you're like, some people don't realize when I use the N-word. I don't mean it in that way. It's like that's not going to matter. Someone somewhere is going to get angry because of that.
Exactly.
Or be insulted. You know.
Yeah. Exactly.
You can't blame them either. It depends on what they experience when they're grown up. So, go on.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. It's exactly that. No matter what I mean when I say it, there's going to be people that will always take offence to its use. So no matter how much I can justify my use of it, it's always going to cause offence. So I've been educated on my use of this phrase, which I cringe at typically, which is the N-word, to refer to it without using it. Now, for whatever reason, that is society's way of taking the sting out of it. And I've just got to accept that. I've been told, I understand. The message has been communicated, it's been received.
There was this lad, and I'm surprised actually that YouTube are not coming down on you for using the word, because I thought they'd be the first. Boy, out of this, I thought YouTube would be in your face over. I thought you wouldn't use that word because of YouTube.
No.
Oh, well.
No, YouTube have got no worries. You go and watch a Django Unchained clip. You're covering me on.
Yeah, but that's within the movie. You know, People are kind of
It
expecting
doesn't
it
work
there.
like that.
You know what?
No.
You know what's coming up.
It doesn't work like that. It's just a word, right? As far as the algorithm's concerned, it's vulgar language in the same way as the F word or the C word or whatever vulgar language is just vulgar language. There's a time limit on when you can use it, and that's it. Now, if you're putting out hate speech, then they've got a community guideline that a person would have to assess to make that judgment call on. And it's the same with racism. Someone's going to have to make a call. Well, obviously, none of those videos got demonetized. So you're like, okay, so what does that tell me? It tells me that they look at it and they assess whether or not, if they have at all. I mean, I don't know if it even triggered anybody to look at them. I would imagine not. But if they did, they'd go, is this person a racist sack of shit? Is he inciting racial hatred? No. So moving on. Who cares? That's chocolate sentiment, though, isn't it?
But it's also the reputation of the platform. Do you know what I mean? Like the reputation of Discord, because Discord is not like YouTube. It's not a place where there's videos and there's audio, video clips from movies and not. Discord is a place where people speak person to person. You know, it's a communication platform, and so they don't want the reputation of being racist. You know,
and that's also why I'm kind of like, you know, it kind of sucks, but I slightly understand because, you know, like there's obviously those people that'll come in and play an audio or something, or sometimes they'll say it themselves and just be like, oh, nigga, 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 you know, and then those people just get banned, you know, because there's no reason for that. So in a way, I do understand Nathan getting banned. It kind of sucks, but I mean, he responded the way he did, and he's gotta hold that and whatever.
Who asked the question from Discord?
Just me personally. I'm like, this is all whatever. But you know,
it's a bit of a nothing burger.
Different place in my mind.
I just want to credit whoever it is that asked from Discord. Who is it that asked that question? Good question. It's on everyone's mind, so you might as well have asked whoever it was. Kudos. Good question. Well phrased. Any other questions in that regard? Feel free, as it's being asked. I don't mind answering if you want to ask anything further in that regard before we round out. No? With that, I will say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned. There will be an after show to follow.
Oh, I want better Nathan anyway.
You want now?
I'm saying the ballers would be happy. That's like the guy who did whatever he did with that audio clip. He got what he wanted, and more than he wanted. He wasn't expecting to get you banned, so he got more than he wanted. So you trying to deal with the problem got you banned, which is what he wasn't expecting that at all. You know what I mean?
No.
So,
but generally speaking, the hope would have been that he played that into the show and I got shut down by YouTube, because the idea is that if you say that word, suddenly the world explodes. You're like, no, not at all. Like I gave with Django Unchained clips as a justifiable, you know, why YouTube couldn't just put the kibosh on the use of the N word constantly. You can't do that because you might end up censoring the world out of existence.
Yeah. It's just like on a Friday now, the ballers can go and hang around on politics easier, so they don't have you and the rest of the panel coming in now. You know,
I thought it was because you're
it's
racist.
good for them.
Say again, Duncan.
Sorry, I thought it was because you were racist, Nathan.
Well, that is true also, but that's never the real concern when it comes to these things. The fact that I can't stand black people, nobody's even mentioned that.
Word up.
Don't get me started on the frickin' Spanish.
That is going to get clipped. I'm so sorry.
That's not unfamiliar way of behaving, though. That's par for the course in terms of how I talk, generally speaking. I will take these things to the absolute extreme, because why the hell not? I know in my heart how I feel about everybody. I hate all of you equally.
Yeah, the only reason that you can speak that way is And white for you now, obviously, it's also because you're white that word doesn't have, it just doesn't hold. I know you're not saying it you're saying it without any venom, but the only reason you can do that is because you aren't, maybe against the Irish a little bit, but other than that, you're not really racist. So
This clown kind of just proved the point, though, kind of, right? Like, so you wanted to get a rise out of Nathan by saying, "Oh, he's racist," to get him saying, "Oh, he doesn't like black people," when he's had a black person on his panel for like 10 years now. But anyway, that's gonna get clipped. I mean, is that your tactic? Is that
No,
what you
it's
got?
Duncan. That's Duncan. I don't think he means any ill intent by that. He's saying that when someone hears that back, it's the Brenda will clip it. That's what Duncan means by that. I'm reading between the lines here, Duncan, and speaking.
Oh, he's a friendly?
Absolutely. He's saying, like,
oh, okay.
So
My bad,
within
dude.
5 minutes of me saying...
I was like, wait, what?
I had people telling me that Brenda had reported the server. You're like, of course she has.
Fuck Brenda. Fucking retard. I'm sorry.
yeah, but
Oh my God.
Brenda just report anyone for anything because he is a lowlife. Brenda just wants to cause problems. Brenda doesn't care. Brenda doesn't care. Like, Brenda doesn't care who is actually racist. You know what I mean? She doesn't care who actually is a racist. She just wants to cause a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brenda's one of these people who wants to give the impression that she's offended on someone else's behalf. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't be offended on someone else's behalf, number one. Number two, you don't actually care. You're just a troublemaker. Let's be honest.
Yes, she's just a troublemaker. And by the same token, I don't know if this is necessarily the case, but Brenda probably appreciates that we don't care that she's transgender. I couldn't give a toss. When or you just now described her as a troublemaker, that didn't get associated to her gender, her race, her religion, her status. Couldn't give a crap about any of it in regards to just how she is as a person. A shit. that's got nothing to do with any of those things.
Someone's character.
Yeah,
Someone's character in this arena.
And this is probably one of the platforms that's really never come up in response to her. Like there's a platform where she exploded. Literally hear like about that.
You're roboting a bit, Chocolate.
Yeah, even if you were insulting her there, we can't hear you because you're roboting.
You can't call her that, Chocolate. But yeah, I think Chocolate's saying that's never come up and it never would, right? In the same way as, generally speaking, unless it's over the top, over exaggerated for the sake of humour, pointing out somebody's race, gender, whatever. But then there's no disdain in actuality behind that. It's like Brian earlier was like, well, maybe for the Irish. That in and of itself, Brian knows I've got nothing against the Irish, couldn't give a toss, means nothing. But it's just a funny aside between Brian and I to highlight that in a humorous way. Well, maybe I've got some insincerity against the Irish. It's an aside that makes the point, right? Well, no, I've got nothing against the Irish. No, I've got nothing against Spanish. Got nothing against blacks. Got nothing against Spanish. Got nothing against anybody, right? Same goes for glurfs, right? Half the time when I'm complimenting people, give me crap for this, right? I'll say, I wish you every success as a YouTuber when I'm talking about the glurf opponents. They're like, why'd you do that? I'm like, because they're just another fellow human being, right? Their pain is their pain. The fact that they're projecting it onto me as I'm now describing it currently is like, that's their issue. Why would I want to become them and project it back onto them? Because I'm, fearful of them and their projection onto me? Round and round it goes as we all abuse each other. Sod that. Just step back and take the piss out of it. Bloody Irish.
Well, I've dealt with on the opposing side, a couple of Irish lads on the opposing side. And when push came to shove, they were just as dishonest as the rest of them.
Of course.
When push came to shove, they couldn't concede. It's just like, So it has nothing to do with where you're from. I know everyone is from somewhere and is something, but it has nothing to do with that. It's got to do with you and your character. That's all that matters in this arena. Nobody, other than that,
there's a few sayings, right?
It's irrelevant.
There's a few
Honestly,
sayings
I
that
gotta
everyone will
say,
be familiar with. Hold on, let me just get these out, right? Just one thing, right? There's a couple of sayings, right? People are strange. Now, in Britain, mainly in the north, there's now as queer as folk, right? People are all weird. They're all messed up and weird. Now, that's unilaterally true for everyone without exception. But people want to project their messed up nature onto something they can stereotype. Now, that gets out of hand, and then you have racism against blacks, in this case, then societally deemed inappropriate with a certain word, when used condemned for societal reasons of bullying by people like Brenda, who wants to bully us. It's a weird old world, but that's how it all ticks. You just have to understand that. And then laugh at it. Because what else can you do? Literally, what else can you do? You can't stop people being racist. You can't stop people being hateful.
Go on, Chocolate.
Yeah, go on, Chocolate. You're black. You can have an opinion on this.
Oh, thank you. I was just gonna say that
He said you can have an opinion. Are you giving him permission to have an opinion? That's racist.
What the hell was I gonna say? No, I was gonna give you props for what you said before, because about how you wish these guys, even the Globers that we listen to, or you might have the illest critique of them, but then you'll wish them well as a YouTuber. I gotta give you props for that, because I don't think many of them would do the same, and that's a little different in this arena that we're in, because I don't hear people doing that. I would think most of the Globers would wish your channel to shut down. I mean, look how long they've been trying to shut us down. And what was
Shut your channel is shut.
yeah, that.
But that's more a reflection on them, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'm just saying that's pretty big of you. That's pretty dope.
I mean it. I wish them every success as YouTubers. Right, with that hat on, you're just like, man, yeah, it's hard being a YouTuber. Anybody who's out doing that graft, you're like, good for you. Now, when their response is, shut your channel shut, it's like, I think you need to step back for a second and assess yourself mentally. Where are you at? Is that really what you want? If I was run over by a bus tomorrow, do you think Mattoon would feel any better? I absolutely assure you he would not.
He would.
For about 5 seconds.
He would have a pressure that would there'd be a pressure off, because it means your show is not running, which means we're not here 5 days a week. You know what I mean? You then aren't around. You know what I mean? You're not then joining in on QE Live or Ballbusters. You know what I mean? You're not around then. So instantly, that pressure that you're putting on all of them, because every time you have a show, every time you're online in some live capacity, you are a problem for them. So yes, he would feel better, but the overriding point is that wouldn't. All he's doing is kicking the can down the road, because the problem has not gone away.
Exactly.
So he'd feel it better. There'd be a bit better pressure off, but the problem is still existing, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's kicking the can down the road and the temporary relief. In the same way, in their minds, Antarctica was going to solve their problems. It was the final experiment. Now we've got people like Duffy. I see clips of Duffy saying, the final experiments are a series that will show how flat earthers are wrong. You're like, final experiments? Okay.
Yeah, saying stuff like that to anyone out there, like, it doesn't matter what they what the person thinks the world is, anything else. If you have any kind of an education or any kind of I say not education because that doesn't equal intellect, but if you got any kind of an intellect, right, and you hear someone saying the final experiment is a series, instantly you're going, this person, right, I don't trust their intellectual. Instantly, if I heard that, I'm going to go, right, I don't really trust your intellect because of what you just said. Because you're using a plural that's in a complete opposition to a singular. Do you know what I mean? That means anything that you're likely to show me, I have to be dubious of. So it only shows up the intellect of what's going on the opposing side. Because, you know what I mean? The final experiments. Final means over. Do you know what I mean? Not a series. And as you said, Nathan, the only reason that he's doing that is because the TFE didn't work. Like, I don't care. Like, the thing is, it just didn't work. Whatever they were trying to make happen didn't happen. Whatever it was supposed to do, it didn't do it. You know, and when Tune, psychologically, why did Tune feel the need to ring you from the ice? What was the purpose of that? Why did he feel the need to do that? You know, why you? And
I found that out. Hold on, I wrote it down. It's because there wasn't any guns there.
Yeah, it's like, and that's all he was focusing on. He didn't even ask you, what do you think now, Nathan, about that? He couldn't even ask you about what you thought about the 24-hour sun nonsense, because he knew it had no effect on you before he went. So it was like there was this whole thing happening, and the people who he really wanted it to affect, it didn't. It affected some people, yeah, but it didn't affect most people. Most flat earthers didn't. Like, it annoyed flat earthers more so because of the fact that they were doing something that doesn't actually address the argument, and they were acting like this was going to end the argument. It's like that was the most annoying part about all that. It's like flat earthers were furious because you're doing this thing that you've already been told doesn't, you know what I mean? This thing you're doing, no matter what you see, it doesn't determine the geometry of the world we live in. And on. And you're acting like this ends the argument. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and for me, the most annoying part for me was the way they were trying to hand wave away 10 years of destruction out of our hands. You know, that annoyed me. Because, like, it was an annoyance, and it annoyed people as opposed to it made people go, we were all wrong. You know, because let me tell you, they would have no mercy on you. If we were shown to be wrong, not that we can be, but if we were shown to be wrong, like, they'd have no mercy, the opposing side. Anyone thinks they'd have mercy, they won't have. You know, they won't have mercy. They'll load that up forever. I mean, because if they don't have humility now, how are they going to have mercy at that point? You can't not have humility and then suddenly have mercy. If you have humility, you understand to have mercy when the time is right. When you understand to have humility at the right time, you understand to have mercy at the right time. They don't understand to have humility. So when it comes to having mercy, they won't have that either. So I don't know. I'm kind of gone off rambling a bit here, but
not at all. Absolutely, you couldn't believe. You demean your own point when you're making the most pertinent points ever. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. That's their lack of mercy.
Yeah, well, that's what I think.
They've demonstrated it in the process. Just him calling, right? He's not humble. That's him wanting to chastise me because he's seen the sun. Because in his mind, that ends the argument. Therefore, he's got to tell me that to confirm that it did actually end the argument. And what did I do? Divert to measurements.
Yeah. You're red herring away with measurements of the earth. Yeah. See, this is when I have to say it. Shout out to Mr. Cheswick. Like, straight away within 24 hours, that song was out. That ended it. I mean, I think Mr. Cheswick's song, right, absolutely ended the TFE. Whatever oomph it could have had, was ended by Mr. Cheswick.
Yeah, it became.
As
He
in if-
turned it into a total joke. Now that joke gets played regularly on Ballbusters Weekly or bi-weekly.
Yeah, it's so bad that it's so bad. Like if Tune hadn't did what he did, if he didn't do that, or if he did it in a different way, that song would have never happened. Right? But because of what he did and how he did it, that song happened. And now the thing is a big joke. Every time people hear that, every time people think about the TFE, first thing what comes into my head straight away is that song. The very start of that song comes into my head the minute TFE comes up. So I associate it with this song, which is a brilliant song, by the way. Do you know what I mean? I sing along to it in my head sometimes. And when I hear it coming on QE Live or something, I'm like, yay, because it means the start of QE Live or the start of Paul Busters, and I'm happy. So it only has an association with happy things and making a joke out of the thing that was supposed to be the big deal. So
Yep.
I don't even see the point in Duffy even trying to do anything else. Well, he can't. Duffy doing that is only him trying to stay relevant. He can't do anything else.
The point, I recognise what you've just said, which is that the whole thing became a mockery when Cheswick released that, was when JLB was singing it out of his balcony. He's obviously had a couple of drinks. He's like, "Where's the guns, Nathan?" He's out the window talking about Antarctica, singing that song, like making a mockery of it.
Yeah, as I said, when I hear that song, I'm happy. Mr. Cheswick, you know, because it's that kind of Mr. Cheswick is a scouser, right? And I say this to people, but people don't really understand that the Scousers, in my opinion, are the world's best of all time at taking the piss. Right? They are the best at getting smart. Right? In my own experience, I was never able to be smarter, be more of a smart ass with a Scouser than they can be with me. They were always that little step ahead. Right? They always made me laugh every time. Right? No, except for the couple of bad ones I met. But generally, the Scousers that I met were funny. They were able to take the piss. And they were really thick-skinned. And when I heard that, I knew that was like the Liverpool attitude, right, towards the TFE. That's what, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what was going through my head, because Mr. Cheswick is a Scouser, right? It's like, that's their attitude towards, MC Town, Liverpool's attitude towards MC Town. And that for me gives me a smile because that's how I view Scousers. They're just like, they don't really take things serious. And if you're trying to, doing something like Town did, it just made sense to someone like Mr. Cheswick would zone in on it. It's like, are you serious? You can do that and people are going to take it serious. Where are the guns, Nathan? Like, because of some tweet you made back in 2016, that isn't even relevant to him. Because you weren't talking about a guided tour, were you? You were talking about someone just touring up there in a boat. You're not going to get away with it. You can't just tour up in a boat in Antarctica. You can't do that. Someone's going to stop you somewhere.
That was so bleeding obvious to everybody who was listening to him asking where the guns are. It's like, are you serious? Simultaneously, you've been telling us about all the checks that you've had to go through and how strict they are. You having me on? But no, actually, there's no guns here. You're like, oh my God, this is what you're reaching for. That's why everyone took the piss.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because even some years ago, I think it was around 2017? One of the flat earthers, I can't remember who it was, but it was someone we'd all know the name of. It could have been Mark Knight, Wakey, could have been him, that went through the process, or it could have been Taboo Conspiracy actually, went through the process of investigating the Antarctic Treaty and what you must go through to go to Antarctica, right? And you could spend as an everyday person, right, who wants to just go there and explore. You could spend up to $500,000 to $1 million in US dollars or whatever, to go through the application processes because you have to apply to go through so much red tape with different countries, and even then, you might get turned down. And if you don't get turned down, you're left in a situation where you can be on the ice, right, in Antarctica, but you can't even have a sled dog. You can't have a sled dog even with you. So you can't. How much exploration are you going to do? How much can you pull with you on a sled? How long is that going to last before you have to turn around and come back? Before you're halfway through your rations. What are you going to explore? The place is there's probably such a big expanse of ice there that anyone walking, if there's anything other than ice there, anyone walking is not going to get there's so far you can walk. How far can you walk in low temperatures, even in the summertime there? On the ice shelf itself, they say it gets to minus 30 in the summertime, and up to minus 80 and 90 in almost minus 90 in the worst conditions in the wintertime. For an average of minus 50 in the wintertime, an average of minus 25 or 30 in the summertime. How far are you going to go with your sled? You're not going to go anywhere. You miss. What is the point? They make it a pointless endeavor. So McToon or MC Toon saying, where is the guns? Because you said you could turn away at gunpoint. If you decide to just go there with your stuff and you're going to put jeeps and stuff up on the ice or whatever you're going to do, you're not going to just get away with that. You will be stopped. There will be some military personnel, and there was some wealthy guy who was stopped at gunpoint in the past couple of years. Twice he tried to go there. Some guy, a wealthy guy who was a flat earther and wanted to go there, and he was stopped in his yachts or boats or something, an explorer boat, sorry, not yacht, but an explorer type boat, an explorer yacht, and he was stopped. And I think he got stuff taken off of him and he never got it back or something. The Globebusters have more information on that stuff. You probably have to ask David Boyce to have some of that information or someone like that. But so it happened. Someone did get stopped. So Toon saying, where are the guns, Nathan? Well, Toon, you're not going to run into them unless on a guided tour. You know what I mean? You don't pay for a guided tour and you're going to get brought around at gunpoint unless you're in Israel. You know what I mean? Give me a break. That's not what happens. So it's ridiculous that he even did that. And he had to focus on a tweet from 2016. It was only bound to fail. So I'm rambling again, sorry.
That guns nonsense backfired very badly.
Yeah, because anyone asks you where are the guns, it's so sarcastic now. You know what I mean? Where are the guns then? It's so sarcastic. It's become such a joke in this arena. And that's the type of thing that would actually, it's a story that can be told to someone who's not in the arena. So someone hears this song from Mr. Cheswick and they go, what the hell is that song about? And someone who knows can tell them, if they have the history of it, they can tell them the history of what the song is about. And straight away, people would understand it. And they go, what? And they're going to laugh when they see the clip within the video and they hear the clip, or especially if they can see it as well, within the video of MC Toon calling you from the ice. And any everyday person is going to laugh at that, even if they don't know what's going on here, because it's obvious that the song is taking the piss out of Toon and what he's doing. So it's like capturing a lot of history in one little song. That kind of thing. This is where they got to. This is what they had to do. We told them there's no point. It doesn't prove anything, and they did it anyway. And this is how it ended up from. Do you know what I mean? And they ended up focusing on a tweet from 2016 that isn't untrue. They just had to take it out of context. Look, that's all that happens in this arena, isn't it? They can't address the real issues on our opposing side. Our opposing side can't address the real issues, so they want to focus on taking something you did say and rewording it to make it or leave stuff out or add stuff in to make it sound like it's different. The meaning was different than it was. You know, they never thought. You can go to my channel now. There's comments I guarantee you that have been put up in the past 2 hours on my latest couple of videos, past 2 videos. Loads of comments that aren't really addressing anything. You know what I mean? There's nothing happening. It's or somebody who's taking something I said out of context, or you know what I mean, saying Brian said this or Brian said that when he never said it. You know, misquoting you. You know, making up straw man arguments is everything and anything but addressing the topic. You know what I mean? So that's what it always is with them. So that there was once again like Toon not addressing the topic. Like the topic was you're saying that you're going to be met at gunpoint in 2016 because that's what will happen. If you try and just go there, eventually someone's going to stick a gun in your face if you keep persisting. That's what's going to happen. You're going to be told, go away. And, you know, that's if you're lucky. If you're lucky. Because if you're unlucky, they'll just shoot you and say you fell overboard. You know what I mean? Go away. You will get the message. That's the way it is. You know, there's a reason. There is a good reason. I don't know what that reason is, but there is a good reason for why the Antarctic Treaty exists. But I do know, when I say I don't know why, I do know that it's not because they care about penguins. I know that. So, because they don't care about penguins or anything else, the very same people who claim to care about penguins. So whatever reason it is that they're making a big deal out of Antarctica, it has nothing to do with penguins. That's just a slap in the face for anyone who knows they don't care about penguins.
Yeah, but sometimes it backfires so beautifully that it can be easily explained to an onlooker in terms of the humiliation that is that type of assertion, just to get one over on the opponent. But it makes, in this case, Toon look terrible. And it's embarrassing. You know, occasionally it backfires badly. Sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't. And when
he's probably...
Go on.
Sorry.
It's all right, you're good.
I was just saying he probably faced a lot of aggression on his own side after that, because that was a kind of I don't know what he thought he was doing, but I mean, people on his own side would like if I was focused on the TFE being something and I was a baller, and then he did that, and now there's and within a day there's a Mr. Cheswick song, it's like I would be very unhappy about that, because he's after creating a situation where the whole thing has become a farce. Not that it was to be taken serious in any great way in the first place, but any like whether they saw a 24-hour sun or not didn't matter at that point. It's like it's a joke. It's become a joke, and so the focus is now on the song and the stupid thing that Toon did, not on that's always first. That's always the primary. The secondary is always the footage or the thing or whatever. The primary is Toon's phone call to you. That's the primary. I think, well, for me anyway, when I think about the thing, that's the first thing comes to mind. It's historic. The historic part is not whatever McKeegan's footage is. The historic part is what Toon did. So now in history, the focus in history is on what Toon did and not on, you know what I mean? Not on, it's like... it's a bit like, I don't know if I could give it a historic equivalence. You probably could think of a barrel one, Nathan. I was thinking of something. I can't give it a historic equivalence. Maybe there isn't too many, but you know, the focus is on what they didn't want it to be on, basically. You know, historically.
You're doing really well. You're constantly demeaning yourself like you're not doing a good job of describing these things, and you are.
Yeah, because I get to a point where I can't remember, or I can't think of an equivalence historically where people ended up focusing on the comedy aspect of it, of something. Well, hang on, what am I saying? Jeff Bezos thing, maybe. Right? It just happened that people were supposed to focus on this space flight, right, in quotes, right, right. It's like, instead of focusing on the joke of it. You know what I mean? I think it's like it's God's way, really, of showing the world. Like the easiest way to show the world that they're wrong about something, or show the world that something is a joke, is a con job or whatever. Because it doesn't matter if they went to Antarctica and saw 24 or so on. It's a con job to state that somehow ends a geometric argument. That's wrong, right? It's a con job to try and label it as that or sell it as that. It's like it's like you're trying to sell a ride-on lawnmower as if it's a Lamborghini. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have that capability. So it's a con job. So God's way of showing up these things as con jobs is the comedy of errors that happen via humans. You know, why did that person inside that capsule open that door? Was it they were meant to do it? Maybe they were. But if they weren't, the fact that they did it doesn't surprise anyone, because people do stupid stuff. And even when they're instructed not to do it, they still do it. And those stupid things, and at any point, I'm sure God can give someone the inclination to open the door. You know what I mean? At any point, God can, if God wants, even though you've got free will, He can have you do something, just briefly. Do you know what I mean? So why did that person open the door? Because if they weren't instructed to do that, then it was human stupidity. And that's all it took to turn that Blue Origin thing. Not that it would have mattered to any of us, but to the greater populace out there. That turned it into a massive joke. Now people have less and less trust in these things because of that. You know what I mean? Now they're going to still say, "Oh, the Earth's not flat," because they don't know any different. But they're not going to trust they won't have trust in Blue Origin. The same way as Mr. Cheswick's song, right, takes away any relevance that the TFE could have had. It's gone immediately within 24 hours. Well, it was gone. It was gone the minute the tune rang you. That ended any relevance it was going to have.
Yep.
At that point.
Yeah, isn't that nuts that it could be taken away from them so easily? So many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mr. Toon. What's his name? Mr. Cheswick. Get it right. Mr. Toon. I meant Mr. Cheswick. Mr. Cheswick sat with a computer, took it away in about half an hour of producing a song. Probably took a lot longer than that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's become, regardless of the frustrations that do exist in this arena, right, on both sides, right, the ball are still annoying me. Right? I don't say they don't annoy me. It's part of the reason sometimes that they annoy me because they don't concede. That's what. If any baller out there who's listening, if you want to know what part about you I dislike the most, it's your lack of humility, because they expect the humility out of you that they're unwilling to give. Now that doesn't mean that you shouldn't give humility when it's time to say you're wrong. You're wrong. That's it. Right? Don't mess around. But the fact that they won't do that. Now, in general, I've had a very small amount of them, maybe 3 in my time, who've admitted that they were wrong about something, and it wasn't that major, right? One was kind of reasonably big, but it was personal. It wasn't publicly. They admitted it to me personally, right? The point being is that you can't expect humility if you're not willing to give it. Humility is one of those things. Do you know what I mean? Isn't it? You know, you can't expect someone's loyalty if you're not going to give loyalty. It's like, how can you expect something that you're not willing to give? Same thing, isn't it? So they're not willing to be humble. They're not willing to concede when they're wrong, but they expect us to do it. Now, they love when a flat earther is shown to be wrong about something and they don't admit. They love that. They're going to love that because they can then character assassinate us with that. So when you're not admitting when you're wrong and you're a flat earther, you're actually helping them, because that gives them something to use as a character assassination against us. So that's not helping. Like your inability to say you're wrong is not helping anyone, right? That's just selfish at that point. I think it's in this arena. It's extremely selfish of someone to not admit what they're wrong when they are. It's totally selfish for someone to do that simply
It's just-
because you're not helping anybody.
Well, you're suggesting that it's a baller trait, and it's back to there's now as queer as folk or people are strange. People are, or people have a lack of ability to be humble, generally. So therefore, when you say it's the ballers, and then simultaneously say when the flat earthers do it, it looks bad on us because the ballers don't do it. It's like people don't do it. It's really hard to be humble. Humility is not something that people naturally just seem to have, as you and I both well know, right, Brian?
Yeah. My point to flat earthers is when you're caught and you're wrong about something, and you don't even if it takes a bit of time and then you admit it, that's not good enough. When you're wrong, admit it at the time. When you know you're wrong, you might take a few moments, right? It might even be 24 hours, right? But as soon as you find out you're wrong, you're better off as soon as possible just owning up to it. Don't mess around, because when you mess around, that can be used against us as a group. At that point, that's going to be used, and all anyone in the public is going to know about is this. They're going to hear about this flat earther not being honest when they were shown to be wrong. That's all they're going to hear about. They're not going to even think about how the opposition or know about how the opposition are never being humble. They never admit. In 10 years, they will not admit they're wrong. Like, even when they're told by people on their own side, when Veritasium, right, pointed out to them, to the public, gravity, right, within their paradigm, right, mathematically, is not a force. The maths for gravity as a force are gone since 1915. That's it, right? The only reason, this is for the ballers, the only reason within your paradigm that gravity is still being taught as a force to people who are undereducated is because of the 1969 moon landings. Because within that footage, and all the footage that came from the space agencies after that, it's showing gravity as a force. People weighing less in a low gravity environment. That has nothing to do with general relativity. They couldn't show general relativity. It wouldn't have been possible. It's so purely mathematical. There's no way to actually show it. Because it's not just that it's very complex mathematically, it's vague, right? So the only way to get people to accept the moon landing was for them to see astronauts appearing to bounce around on the moon with big backpacks on them because they were only 1/6 of the weight that they are on the globe Earth because they were in only 1/6 of the gravity, right? That is why they keep on wanting people to tie gravity in with weight. And that way, when they see one of these videos, right, of a space agency video, and people are floating or whatever, that instantly means straight away that is supporting the idea of gravity as a force, and that means gravity as an existing thing. That's what that is, and that's the only reason that that's still taught. But when it comes down to the maths of the heliocentric paradigm in general, gravity as a force was thrown out, including by Einstein, or including anything to do with supposed things falling. They're not falling within that mass. The Earth is coming up to meet the object. The phone is not falling down. The phone doesn't have weight within Einstein's maths. Do you know what I mean? There is no weight. There's no weight. Gravity is nothing to do with weight. It's only purely an apparent thing. But they needed people to believe that the moon landing was actually happening. The best way to do that is to give people something to focus on that, that's easy to understand, which was a force of gravity. That's the only reason that that's still taught. But now they have to keep teaching that rubbish to people because they keep on having to come out with these videos of people floating around in a heliocentric outer space. So they have to keep, you know what I mean, teaching people gravity is a force. But now it's getting really convoluted, where they're trying to change what kind of force it is. But at the same time, I think it's 54 years before that, before 1969, in 1915 or whatever it was, you have Einstein throwing the whole lot out the window. And not too long after that, everyone accepting it. So in the higher echelons of heliocentrism, gravity is not a force. Veritasium, gravity is not a force. Has he made a video saying he was wrong about that? No, because he knows that gravity is not a force. Right? He knows it within his own paradigm. It doesn't exist. There is no force of gravity. You think your phone is falling within those mass. It's only because the Earth is coming up to meet it. Why? Because it's relative. It's as Einstein called it. That's why it's part of the reason why it's called an effect, not a force. Because you think that's happening, but what's actually happening is something else. Blah blah blah. But why do they need it to be a force? Why do they need to teach that? Because they need to keep the moon landing. Do you know what I mean? Without the moon landing, what have we got? Without the moon landing, even in this nation, right? If you took the moon landing away from them tomorrow, right, what would happen?
Space goes. They've gambled on it.
You're going to need a flat earth for that.
Well, it's more that they've gambled everything on it, haven't they? So before the moon landings, you've got the perception of space being real, but there's no real proof for it. So then you just need real proof. But then when you've gambled that this proof is the real proof that we've definitely got space, and then it's shown to be not real, then they risk everything.
Exactly. Everything. See, if the moon landings aren't real, right? If the moon landings aren't real, like all this other stuff after that doesn't mean anything. No one's going to go, well, that wasn't real, but it doesn't work that way. Once you lose people's trust, you lose people's trust. Especially with something like that. And at this stage, they're turning the whole space thing. And I reckon what they're doing is they're turning this whole space thing into a gradual joke. Bit by bit by bit, because they're bringing in people like Jeff Bezos and celebrities and opening doors. And it's all becoming, Jeff Bezos has the special spanner for opening the door that doesn't need to be there because there's a handle on the inside. Just ask Dave McKeegan. It's like, it's becoming just bit by a joke. And you have Generation X, right? Who are in their teens into their very early 20s, whatever, right? You have that generation, the TikTok generation, and what they're viewing it as. And bit by bit, it's true. Like it's kind of like they're watering it down, bit by bit. To me, that's what it's like. It's like, okay, we can't beat this problem now. Flat earthers have turned up. We can't do anything about this. We need the internet. They use the internet. There's no way around this. So bit by bit, we're just going to make a joke out of this whole space thing. That's what it feels like to me.
It does.
I agree.
100%. I agree. Feels like they're dismantling it. I agree.
Yeah.
I've got to step away for about 5 minutes because I've got to go and post this. I'll be back in a minute.
Brian, I was thinking the same thing, Brian. That's why they're doing all of this nonsense, making it look as stupid as possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, this wouldn't have happened years ago. Go back a couple of decades ago, it certainly wouldn't have happened. You would have had. You would have
had the ballers bringing it to us, Brian. You would have had them bring it. Look. Right?
Well,
now they're running from it.
Well, you would have had, some years ago, you would have had a big deal with a load of astronauts who were ex-Air Force, do you know what I mean, who were highly trained, and they would have spent 8-9 months of extreme training before they went on this space mission. Do you know what I mean? And they'd be specially trained to take G-forces and all this kind of stuff.
Right, now you just sent up Katy Perry.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's like, it's the person you're sending up. You know what I mean? It's who you're sending to this magical place will give it, relevance. It's like having a good actor or a bad actor, isn't it? If you've got a movie and you've got Al Pacino playing the main part, right, as opposed to some idiot who couldn't act his way out of a wet paper bag, Like, what's going to be more successful? You know what I mean? It's going to be the Al Pacino. He's, he's obviously a seasoned actor. Huh?
What about William
Someone's
Shatner? He was 90 years old, and they sent him up there. He's not an astronaut. Like, can you imagine an old guy like that taking one of those flights?
Yeah, exactly.
No, he was
Yeah, William Shatner.
There you said. You're going to need a flat earth for that.
Yeah, they need Scotty to beam them.
And if you're going to teach these
I think-
people gravity being a force, you're also going to need a flat earth for that.
Because they're going to need it up and down. The thing about it is that at least with William Shatner, he has a career in sci-fi. Do you know what I mean? So it had some relevance. Katy Perry and Jeff Bezos' girlfriend, right? And one of the Kardashians.
Shatner said it looks flat. Shatner said it looked flat to him.
Yeah, it looks flat.
Katie's artificial breasts were floating.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. It's like, like you can once you're sealed inside, like in a submarine, the outside pressures can be extremely limited. But like not without, you can't send a group of women just up in a capsule like that without any training. You can't do that. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. You know, you wouldn't go up in a helium balloon, would you? Just to see what you wouldn't do that. You'd have to train at something. You know, that's not something. There'd be a load of fear. There's no way those women aren't going to be scared, but they were all super confident, weren't they? Every one of them confident because they weren't going anywhere. They weren't going up into some heliocentric outer space. You know, they were. You know, if you're doing something like that, right, you're a lot more humble. You know what I mean? You're not going to be so brash about it because it's, you could die. You know what I mean? Things could go wrong. Sorry?
Indoctrination, way to front of them, solidify the people for believing that space exists.
Well,
yeah, space does exist. That's where we move. We walk in space.
Yeah.
Length, width, and height.
Back in space, yeah, definitely. How is everybody today? Good?
Yeah, we can't really hear you. You're coming through very low. Can't hear you.
How is everybody today? Good?
Okay, yeah.
The same as yesterday.
Maybe you can't hear me.
But anyway, if you were going to swim with a great white shark, would you be nervous? You know what I mean? If you were going to swim with a great white shark, if you were brought out there by one of these people, Ocean Ramsey or someone who swims with sharks, and this is your first time swimming with a great white shark, you and 5 or 6 other people, are you going to be nervous?
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be nervous. Do you know what I mean? It's like meeting a wild tiger. Are you going to be nervous? Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you're going to be shot up into the air in some capsule, if you're going to be shot straight up in the air in some capsule, you're going to be nervous.
Yeah.
But they weren't. They were no training, casual, confidence. Like, give me a break.
Yeah. It was a joke. They didn't go anywhere. We know that.
Can't hear you. Your
Same
mic
thing
is
if
too
you're
bad.
walking
Can't
if you're
hear you.
walking on the beach and next to you there's a great white shark on the beach on the sand. He's going to be scared of you.
Yeah, well, if he's stuck on the beach, yeah, exactly, because he's now in the position you'd be in if you're in the water.
Well, it's all very quiet. Only about 20 or 30
No,
people here.
I was just saying, Nathan, that.
That don't mean end the show. We're thinking of things to say. Right, Brian? Stop being
Well,
so
I'm actually
quick on the trigger, Nathan.
saying something, Neil. If you were going to swim, Nathan, with a great white shark, would you be nervous?
Yeah,
You'll
yeah,
be brought out in
probably.
the cage, to get out of the cage and actually swim, not be in the cage now, get out of the cage. You're going to be nervous, aren't you?
Very, yeah.
Yeah, right. If you had to sit in the passenger seat of a rally car, right, while it goes around, not when it's in a race, but just when it goes, you're going to be nervous. Rally car could be doing 150 miles an hour sometimes or something like that. You're going to be nervous, right? Because you're going to be, if you're someone who hasn't never gone at speeds around that, you're going to be nervous. But even at that doesn't equal a great white shark, right? Because the great white shark is totally unknown. You don't know what the shark is going to decide to do. So if you're going to be shot directly up in the air in some capsule, if you're going to be shot directly up in the air in some capsule and that's connected to some big rocket, and you're then going to release from the rocket and be up in some place that you don't know if you're going to come back from, are you going to be nervous? Or if the door could open, from the inside, you're going to be nervous, aren't you? Now, none of those people.
Come on, Brian. They were desperate for a wee. That's why. They didn't need a spanner to open the door, after all.
He dropped a capsule out of a Hercules airplane with a what do you call it? Parachute attached to it.
Can't hear you. Your mic is too bad. I'm sorry. You're not coming in.
I don't know what happened. Yesterday I was too loud. Today you can't hear me, and I have the same volume level. Okay, 1 second. Can you hear me now?
It sounds like your mic is being covered by something.
It's not good on the ears. If it's way too hard to hear you.
Okay, I'll just listen to the show. You guys go ahead.
What was I going to say about that Blue Origin thing? Oh,
I don't know, but you pretty much said everything about everything else. I'm sure you'll think of something.
That's good.
Well, why don't you take over from me now that you've joined in? Nothing. Well, I'll go back to talking then.
Brian, just turn the disc around, side B now.
Side B, yeah, put on side B. That's a good one. Yeah, well, the point being is that nobody's going to go up in that thing and not be nervous, right? There's no way around that. Yeah, like if you were really doing it, if it was really real, you're going to be nervous, right? Now they weren't nervous, and remember the door opens from the inside for an emergency. Now, what exact emergency could there be? At what point when you're being blasted up into the air on a rocket, right? And when the rocket releases you, you're supposedly in heliocentric outer space. At what point is there an emergency big enough to open that door? Like, if one of the people in the capsule with you turned into a homicidal maniac, is that a good enough reason to open that door? No. There is no emergency, right? Other than the only time to open that door, right, is when you're back on the ground or in the ocean. That's the only time to open that door. There's no time other than that to open that door. No time other than that. So I don't know. You know what I mean? Why would you have an emergency opening on the inside? Yeah, why would you do that? It makes no sense. When are you going to open the door? At what point during that trip will you open that door? What emergency? If someone turns into a werewolf inside the thing, are you going to open the door? I mean, you're going to die. Opening that door means certain death, right? All the way through that trip. The only time it doesn't mean certain death is when you're probably about 30 or 40 feet off the ground. And you're heading to the ground at about 60 miles an hour. So you better off staying in the thing.
Werewolf. Oh my God.
But yeah, I mean, what is going to lead you to opening that door? Do you know what I mean? What is going to get you to the point of opening that door? It's like, are you going to open the door of the submarine, right, when you're whatever depth down? You're not, are you? You're not going to open the door of the submarine because there's going to be such an inflow. You know what I mean? There's going to be such a problem with you doing that. What is going to happen on that submarine for you to have to open that door when you're down at depth?
That's great.
Regardless of what the depth is. And even that is not equivalent.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
Go on, who's talking?
Can you hear me yet or no?
No, it's just still bad. I told you, your mic is still bad. Can't hear you. You're coming in really bad.
Okay. I'm signing off. Cheers.
Yeah. But the if you're in a submarine and if you decide to open to the outside and you're at depth, if you're like 60 feet down, a lot of submarines only travel at most at 60 feet down. They don't travel at great depths below the water. They just need to be out of the sight line of ships, right? The point being is that even if it's 60 foot, right, if you open that hatch, there's going to be such an inflow of water and the pressure is going to be there also that when you're trying to get out of that submarine, the submarine itself will be sinking as you're doing that. So it could be at 80 foot down by the time you get out, or maybe more. So, right, but there is still a chance that you will get to that surface and you probably will have the bends, right? You will have a pressure problem because and that could kill you, right? But you can be sure there's basically no good time for opening the hatch on that Blue Origin. If that thing was real and they were really going off out into a heliocentric sky vacuum, there is no good time to open that door other than when you're back on the ground. There is no good time. You're falling at such a rate, even like what you could probably start, if you were smart, you'd start opening it at about 150 feet off the ground, and you'd be jumping over it at about when it's about 30 foot off the ground. If there was some reason, so you'd be jumping out 30 foot. So you'd probably break our legs, or break our leg maybe, or something, or get hurt or something. Maybe not. But the point is that other than that, I can't think of any other good time to open that hatch. There's no good time, logically. It's going to need that emergency opening on the inside. When are you going to do it? Outside of the scenario I just gave, give me another time, any of you, when you're going to open that hatch under the circumstances they're claiming that was happening. Huey, go.
Well, I was going to go first. I was just going to say, surely it would be a better idea to have sort of maybe like a special mechanism that could only be opened by the outside with maybe a special key or something, like a special handle. I don't know. I'm just thinking out the top of my head. You're right, though. Where's the emergency exit? There's no slide that goes with it, right? There's no parachute that pops out. There's no soft landing that gets added.
I can't think of any time that would be good to open that hatch from the inside. If we were to go by the paradigm they're claiming we were in, and they're claiming we were to go by what they're claiming was actually happening, that we know is not. But the point is that when do you open that hatch? Is there any other time other than the scenario I gave? Is there any other time we're going to open that hatch? You're not. When you go to open the hatch, when you're 12 miles up, and when you jump out, what are you going to jump into? You're going to end up going down with the rocket going past you. It's going to half burn you to death. And then you're going to fall 12 miles to the ground and die. Right? You're not going to do that. No one's going to do that. Like, I don't care. No one's doing that. When is he going to, like, on the way back down? When are you going to open it up on the way back down? You're not going to open it up on very low pressures. There's no point in opening it up because, once again, you have the problem of being up so high. So when are you going to open it up? You're not. The only time you can open that up again would be either just before you leave, which you get back out before they even take off, or just before you land on the ground. You'd have to time that, as I said, 150 feet or something. If you're going at 60 miles an hour, you'd have to calculate it out somehow in your head. You know, there's no other time we're going to open it. So what's the purpose of this emergency opening on the inside? Just what's the purpose of it? What did you think of did you listen to the other half of the James Tour thing, Nathan, from last night, or were you listening in last night? Nathan.
You talking to Nathan or me?
I'm talking to anyone who's going to talk.
I've been in the middle of a delivery. I'm sorry, but I'm paying attention. I thought the James Tour thing was good.
Yeah. I was saying to Adam afterwards that the problem that James Tour has is that he has all this knowledge, and he has like 10 nuclear bombs he can drop on him at any time. But the problem is that it's how he's using it. And it's the way he's putting his whole argument together. He'd be better off if he could put his whole thing together in a better way and only have 3 nuclear bombs. Because you don't need 10. You just, you know what I mean?
I don't know why he's skirting around in their paradigm. Just lay out the truth.
Yeah, just lay out the facts. That's all he has to do. He just has to lay out the facts. He doesn't have to, what's the point in pandering to them? Just lay it out as it is. There's proof that there's a creator. There's proof that what you're claiming, means there can only be a creator. That's the end of that. Deal with it.
I think he should just read out. I think he should just read out QE's thing.
If I was wanting to relay, right, if I wanted to relay flat earth information, right, proof that the earth is flat, that means I'm obviously 180 degrees proving it's not a globe at the same time, right? I can't do that if I'm worried about the feelings of the people on the globe side. I can't do it. I have to lay that out, right? And cold as ice. You have to. There's no other way to do it. There's no point in trying to lay it out. And it might still be a globe, except for this thing kind of makes it kind of has to be flat. No, you can't do that. It's either you're laying out the information or you're not. You can't be an impact. It doesn't work. You have to be logical about it. He's logical about so many other things, I'm sure he's like. When it comes to that, he's not being logical. He's using logic within his knowledge to show things that can't be, you know what I mean, for what they're claiming. But then the way he's laying it out, he's trying to is illogical. That's the problem. It's like he needs to change that, because if he changed that little way he goes about it, he'd be an absolute powerhouse. But that's what gets in his way, because he's too busy pandering to their nonsense power that doesn't exist. Why are you pandering to that? Why are you doing that? Just take it all away from them. You then deal with it. It's not your problem after that. You're just a messenger.
Who? Who are you talking about? Who's just the messenger?
You are. What time's the book? 12:30 my time?
Is that?
It can't take you to go from. It's not hard to sorry, lighting up there.
Can't even hear you. Your mic's a train wreck. You overtalk Neil too. right in the middle of a sentence, by the way. What time's a book? What time's a book? 12:30 my time?
Yeah.
Adam, 12:30? Now, are we staying here, or you closing shop, or what's happening?
I'm leaving it open. How many hours from now is that for you?
2.
By 2, you mean 2.5, right?
10:30 right now.
Oh, you said 12:30.
Yeah.
6:30 our time. Yeah, fine.
What up?
Your sister's ankles.
Yeah, I'll just leave the hangout open. That's my intention.
I'll message Flatsy.
What other intentions do you have, Nathan?
Me?
Yeah, do.
Might close my other monitor down. Is that okay?
If you want it.
What I miss?
Nothing much.
I have to keep continually talking, otherwise Nathan is going to start talking about mics. That's what you miss.
Hey, Huey, did AI do that McBooger eater thing? Because that's, my side still hurt from laughing off that. Or did that really capture him taking his pinky and digging in and nibbling on boogers? Nevertheless, it was genius. You don't know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I know what you're talking about, D-Rose.
I'm putting a projector away, so I've got to step away from the seat for at least 25 seconds more. I'm so sorry, D-Rose.
No apologies. You ain't the only meathead here. Neil's here. Brian's here. They look like they're here.
Neil's doing a big delivery.
He's delivering floors.
No. Neil is in process of dropping the last thing off. So it turned out to be good. The average is out to about $70-something an hour. Not too bad, eh?
Yeah, very good.
That's
Excellent.
good as fuck, $70-something an hour for anything. Shit.
Right, well, everyone's engaged doing
I
other things.
used to do fluorescein angiograms for a doctor, but ophthalmologist, $75 a patient. So I used to make like $150 an hour.
Yeah, but it
depending on
don't
the
happen
patient.
every time, though, D. It's just this
Well,
happens
me
to be a
neither.
delivery that paid that. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, say I only got that hustle like maybe once, maybe twice a month, maybe on a one day. So 2 days out of the month, and he'd give me like 4 people to do. So I'd have like a total of anywhere from 4 to 8 clients in a month. So 75 per client,
Sorry, D-Rose, I wouldn't have been able to answer your question, and I wasn't able to get to the phone. Sorry.
No, I was saying that I know y'all had to see QE's post of McBooger Eater, and I don't know if AI did that video or not, or that was actually a sneak, unedited capture of him, and he's literally taking his pinky and digging in his nose and eating it. his boogers.
Yeah, gross.
And as I had commented, I said, had I heard him say and call him that forever, I just looked at it as one of the comedic ad hominems, but not literally something that actually was literally what he did. So that was hysterical and genius. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I made a decision not to go back to New York to try and earn money. I got to make it here. If I can't make it here, then I got to make it here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Hey, watch your mouth. Sinatra's rolling in his grave. How dare you say a lyric? If I can't make it here in Alabama, I can't make it anywhere. How dare you? Old Blue Eyes I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. You literally took the lyric of New
If
York.
I can
Make it
there
in Alabama.
make it anywhere.
You just pissed on the whole lyric when you said, man, I'm not trying to go to New York to try to make it. I got to make it here. If I can't make it here, I can't. I just have to make it. And you're in Alabama.
Well, that's why I stopped, because come
You
on,
fought
that's
yourself.
the Yankee. That's every Yankee victory they play that song. Which, man, it burns me up seeing Juan Soto in a Mets uniform.
It goes with the free agency, man.
Yeah, but no, listen. You ever take a liking to a player? I like him. I like watching his at bats, the way he intimidates the pitch. I just like him. I've been wanting him on the Yankees for years now. They finally get him, and he leaves after 1 year to be a Met.
Well, if he thinks he's going to get a World Series opportunity or a championship being a Met, he'll learn. And if he's young enough, he'll be back. Watch.
See, I kind of respect it a little bit, because you got to think the way he's thinking. If I make it with them, I'll just go down as another Yankee great. But how many Met greats are there? Not many. And I could go down as the all-time Met great.
But what makes him think that he's going to be the one that's going to break that glass ceiling? It's been how many years? Come on, man. If he achieves that, then yes, he did the ultimate. He did the ultimate. But it's not going to happen.
Second. He won a World Series at 19 with the Nationals. He's amazing to me.
Yeah, but that's one thing. The Nationals were considered like a Carolina Panther, Jacksonville Jaguar, Houston Texan type of new birth into the league. So nobody was prepared for what the Nationals were bringing for their first 5 years. Okay, that was a lot of new recruits and maybe a few, veterans here and there. But that was inevitable in the first 5 years of the Nationals. That always happens. That's why I'm surprised that the Jaguars and the Panthers and the Houston's haven't shocked the NFL. But I guess it's a different sport.
Yeah, NFL, they catch on quick, boy. And baseball is different than any other sport. There's no time limit in baseball. You got to get 27 outs.
But he definitely, and he was there last year, and we were humiliated last year by the Dodgers. That was humiliating.
Well, look what happened. I mean, if we would have taken that game where Judge dropped the ball, and then freaking what's his name Cole doesn't cover the bag, and then freaking what's his name on third base, Jazz Chisholm forgets how to catch a ball because Volpe forgets how to throw a ball. That was a meltdown. But they lost that World Series in Game 1 when they pitched to freaking Freddie Freeman and he hits that grand slam. It was over then.
Yeah, it was humiliating. And now look who's at third base playing against the Rays. I was like, this dude had more errors in 2 days than some people have in their whole season. The new third baseman guy, he's garbage. Overthrowing the first baseman.
He's that He's that Oswaldo Cabrera guy. He's been with the Yankees now for 3 years. He comes up, fills in spots. And I thought he would be good, but I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It goes back to the coaching and who your manager is. These fundamental things, they should not be. These are fundamentals.
Exactly. Yep.
And that comes from coaching down. If you're lackadaisical, then they're going to play lackadaisical.
And that's why I say it was a humiliating World Series loss, because a pitcher's going to give up a hit, a home run, and it happens to be poor defense that allows a loaded bases. Then that comes with the territory. However, like you said, those mistakes you mentioned.
No, see, it's like you going tomorrow, right? After being here all this time, you're going tomorrow to another server, and you're talking about Ether.
Exactly.
And you're talking about freaking the horizon. We see too far. Where's the Earth curve? It's like you didn't even get the fundamentals down.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad you cleared that up.
Well, there's nothing documented anywhere, whether it be on Brian's, Nathan's, Eric DeBay's, anybody. No, you can't copy and paste any quote from me poisoning the lake or mentioning stuff that we used to mention back in 2020 and 21.
Yeah, because you know why? Because we got the fundamentals down, and our leadership doesn't allow us to get lackadaisical.
Exactly.
Right? You got QE and Nathan over there, and you got Adam, and you got Brian, and we can't get lackadaisical. We got to stay on point. We don't mess up with the fundamentals.
We have no excuse to be lackadaisical, because you can't say that we have not been berated, coached, encouraged. You know what I'm saying? All the names that you could say that can keep people in a positive track to make us be aware. And that's what makes me so sick. Not the ones that don't listen. The ones that don't listen, for whatever reason they don't listen. Yeah, they're gonna sound like the same clowns that are just anti-globers and just speak all the rhetoric of all that feast of nonsense. But the ones that are hearing Nathan visit politics all the time and 24/7, all that, and hear them still saying those, not the globers, but the ones that are supposedly calling themselves flat earthers, is very frustrating to have to always sharpen their swords over and over again. I mean, how many times you got to hear the basic fundamentals repeated to you over and over again for you to keep slipping up?
Exactly. I got guys telling me, "Oh, you stay over there. They disrespect you." I said, "What? Nobody disrespects me. Number one. Number two, where am I going to go? Where else am I going to go to get what I'm getting? Nowhere. It's only being done here." I was talking about that with Nathan today. His book, it's the only book that's going to have Earth is measured flat. End of story. These other flat Earth books don't have that proof.
Exactly. Even the only book that's been published that's considered something to use as a tool, which is William Carpenter's 100 Proofs That the Earth Is Not a Globe, doesn't even touch on that. So Nathan's book is going to obliterate.
These other books are good. This is the one. It's no coincidence that it passes through the hands. And no, not ready yet. A lot of fixing to do. Get it fixed up, and when this baby comes out, bada boom.
Yeah, it's going to be over.
It's ridiculous. And what I'm going to show here now is just a very visual way of showing how wrong it is. The claims I'm going to show that are being made by our opposition. What I showed in the past were other ways, and I have more ways, of showing how what they try to claim is happening during flight can't happen, right? And isn't happening, right? Because of certain parameters to do with the plane and that would have to be in place that are not in place. Basically, then it can't put them into place because of the lift effect, right? Planes can't do what they needed to do. That's about the size of it. Long story short, I'm going to address this issue, this stupid argument about how, and this is a correct summation of the claim being made by these people, right? That horizontal changes its own orientation in relation to itself. Now, I've never heard anything more stupid than that. But if someone wants to go along with such...
It's true, isn't it? This is what they're trying to do.
Rubbish. And try and make themselves and their audience and whoever else believe such nonsense, then that's on them in the future. You know, they know what they're doing. They're adults. They know that they're doing this. They know they're saying what they're saying. So, I mean, it's not my fault if I'm just pointing out where it's absolute and total and utter horse manure, which it is, right? And it all comes from, basically, I'm just going to show a second here, right? This is the flight data, the NTSB flight data, right? It all comes from, basically, they can't deal with this, which is the pitch. This is like over 2 hours here where it's a constant. There was engine issues, so after that it was a bit erratic. But here is a constant. And it's between this point and this point at 8:05 to 10:05 in the morning. That's what the pitch data looks like for most flights, regardless of the length of the flight. Most flights, once there's not weather issues or whatever, if it's a constant situation, on average, it will always look like that. Now, it has to look like this because it always has to be above the zero. They have to fly with an above horizontal pitch to be able to generate enough lift to account for the full weight of the plane, passengers, crew.
Excuse me, pitch data has been contributed into the book, right?
No, we just thought we'd leave it out, actually. It's really not worth our time.
You're kidding. You're kidding, right?
There.
You know, everything on board. They have to. They have no choice. It's just the nature's rules, whatever. So this is the problem. They can't deal with this because this orange line here shows that without a shadow of a doubt, and not that we didn't know this beforehand, but this just shows, you know, official data, there it's flat in the story. No ifs, buts, no maybes. But of course, people, even though I've dealt with this issue already, the way I'm going to deal with it now and their stupid claims will be a bit more visual, as I said earlier. But they just can't deal with this. They can't deal with this issue. So I don't care who's saying it. I don't care what their reputation is. I don't even care about what their profession is. It means nothing. Because anyone who's saying any different than they're just flying straight horizontal and they're not accounting for curvature is lying to themselves, if not just lying to others, or both. You know, it's either one or the other. You know, you're trying to fool yourself. So it doesn't matter to me if someone's an engineer, if someone's a pilot, if someone makes burgers for a living. I don't care. It's wrong, right? I don't care who you are, what your situation is. It's wrong, right? You're wrong, end of story. And it's like, they know they're wrong, especially if they're a pilot. They know they're wrong to be saying what they're saying. They know this, but they're going to say it anyway because they have a narrative to push, right? Or maybe they're just too proud to admit they're wrong in general, or admit that over the years that they've been wrong. Either way, I don't care, right? Point being is that they're making a particular claim, even though I've dealt with it in the past. This is going to be more visual, and it'll deal with it. It will be better maybe for people to share than what I put out in the past. What I put out in the past destroys it, but it's not as easy to explain and share. This will be easier to explain and share. Right? So, top of descent, right? This is what we're talking about. We're talking about landing. Now,
yeah, this is called a glide slope or something like that, right? I'd never thought about it, but yeah, the glide slope. Is it ILS that they use for this? And it's guiding them in a particular angle. Yeah, you're going to need a flat earth for that. This is great.
Well, it means what you're going to see in a minute, but it means that the earth has to be flat for that to happen.
Yeah.
So they can't be They can't be doing this nonsense that they're trying to phone people off with, where they have a tangent changing from a tangent to a tangent to a tangent to a tangent to a tangent. You can't be doing any of that.
There is also takeoff. And there's a separate argument in with the takeoff. The takeoff distance won't be as much as the landing distance, right? Because you're taking off at a greater, you're taking off at 12 degrees or something, as you're landing at 3 degrees. But there's other parts of the takeoff that are destructive, but I'm keeping that to myself for the moment. This is something I could have put out a long time ago. I knew about this from a long time back, and I kept it away, kept it to myself, because I knew the claims of our opposition concerning flight from a long time ago. And I kept it to myself, but now I've just decided, look, I'm just going to put it out here. Even though it's not so much that it's new information, because other people have put out stuff like this in the past. Even Witsit put out something concerning this. But the point being is that it's how it's used and when you use it, right? And and who you use it on. And that's the important thing. So I'm going to first go to their claim. Now, let's hope GeoGebra works for me, because it's been giving me a bit of hassle, right? It tends to do that when I need it to work with me. So their claim is as follows, right? This, right, is a tangent to their globe, right? There's two tangents here. There's one which I'm going to call a starting tangent. It's not horizontal, right? Even though in reality this is a horizontal line, right? In their world there is no horizontals, right? And the reason there's no horizontals, I'm going to show in a minute, is because what they're claiming is this is their starting point and their pitch is above this line here. But as they fly, right, the blue line is now their orientation. It was the red line, now it's the blue line. Yet they're trying to say that both of them are the same orientation. Now it's crazy, right? This is not the same orientation as that. But this is what they want to claim. It's ridiculous, but this is their basically this is their defense to the pitch data. Now it's not a defense, as we've seen them publicly demonstrate how badly it goes for them. They can't demonstrate what they're trying to claim because it goes against reality, so it can't be demonstrated. But this is what they want to claim. They want to claim that they're starting off in this position and this is happening. It's like, no, right? That would be a change in pitch, right? Right? There is only one horizontal.
Yeah, in order to describe what Brian's just shown on screen, you'd need a horizontal to reference it to describe how much it's deviating from that horizontal.
And in this, it's the red line, right? Anything that the blue line is doing here is moving away from horizontal. It's not horizontal anymore. You can't use that as an orientation. This is now a pitch below horizontal. But they want to obviously claim stupidity, that it's just a tangent at one point, and if you go around the globe and the pitch is above this tangent, for the pitch of the plane, for absolutely no reason, because it makes no sense for that pitch to be above that, because the pitch is now below the red line, which will defy the lift effect, and basically, in reality, the plane would just smash into the ground. Point being, or at least be descending very fast, because once the planes, the core line of the wings are pitched below the red line, that's it. It's losing lift. It's going down, right? Don't care what type of wing, cambered wing, anything. It's losing lift, right? But I'm going to use for descent. I'm going to use 120 miles, and I'll show you how I calculated that now in a moment. So, right, from here, the starting point to 120 miles. If I just go to here, I'll zoom in a bit if I can. You can see the massive change in orientation. This was the orientation, and now it's this. So on our globe, this is the orientation change, right? This is what they're trying to claim is happening. And I'm using a length of, there's an arc length of 120 miles, right? And as I said, I'll explain that in a minute, right? So this is what they're trying to say is happening. That from this point here, 120 miles later, that's their orientation. But they're trying to say that the pitch data won't change. It'll look exactly the same. It's like, no, that's a pitch below, right? That would be a pitch below horizontal in reality. But in their world, as I said, there is no horizontal. Because in their world, the red line, or neither the red line nor the blue line is a horizontal. They're both just tangents to nowhere. They're nothing. But what people should realize is I'm using I think it's a 7 mile, it's 37,000 feet thereabouts altitude. This black line is the, just going to click on it there. This black line here is the altitude line, right? So that's about 37,000 feet above the surface of the globe, right? So that would be an altitude around the globe. So just like all tangents, right, that's going to be this point here. At every point along this black dotted line, right, there's a new tangent being created, a new orientation of tangent. And if I keep on going, you can see, right, the orientation keeps changing. Because what you're talking about there is thousands upon thousands upon thousands of different orientated tangents, right? Not two tangents, as I'm showing here. There's actually, within that, there's thousands of different orientated tangents, because a tangent touches a circle or a sphere at one point. So 1 foot is 1 point. The next foot is 1 point. The next foot is 1 point. That's 3 points, 3 changes in orientation in just 3 feet. And you're talking 120 miles of distance, right? So this is not like just 2 tangents. This is thousands upon thousands, maybe millions, you talk whatever.
Go on, D.
I just wanted to say, well, according to the guy Bob that was talking to Duffy, and according to if I were someone that never heard of you guys, I would say their paradox and paradigm would be a hovercraft that just lifts up in the air and has a spinning Earth going east to west, and they're just hovering. And every time the Earth hovers, wherever the point that they're above hovering is the tangent point, which all they have to do is just keep the plane at a certain pitch, which never changes as the Earth spins underneath them. That's the type of thing that I'm seeing what they're saying. And as sarcastically stupid as I sound, I intend to, because even for someone like you, Brian, trying to rationalize what they're saying, you can never do that, because you can't rationalize an irrational, nonsensical claim. You can't justifiably rationalize it, because it's so irrational and so nonsensical that it's just impossible for an intelligent person. For an unintelligent person, yeah, they'd be like, oh, okay, I see why they see it that way. So I'm being sarcastic. There's no way that this thing stands on a globe flight. No way. It's impossible.
Well, that's what I'm about to do in this video. I show visually, right, as well as with calculations and evidence of geometrically what they're claiming they do, as opposed to what actually happens when they're landing. Right, just that part alone, right, just that alone, just right, and shows how that one process that's used by all commercial airliners 10,000 times a day, whatever amount of flights go on in the world, 10,000, whatever, 20,000 flights, whatever it is. All planes of all sizes use the same thing. Now, maybe the smaller, really small Cessnas that fly at low altitudes, but even at that, they need to calculate their incoming. So they're the same. So all planes at all sizes use this. And the big planes, you're talking at least 100, you're talking on average at least 100 nautical miles. So that's what I show within this video.
Amount of feet, let's just say, if you want to call 1 foot a point, you'd be talking whatever amount of feet is in 120 miles. There's 5,200 feet in 1 mile. So it's 5,280 feet by 120, right? So you're talking thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of different points along this circle, right? And they be corresponding to points along the surface of their globe. Exactly the same thing, thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of tangents, right? So I'm just going to move that there so you can see it. Now, 120 miles, there is the orientation difference, right? So I'm just going to come out and show. So now come down here and move in here a little bit. As I said, GeoGebra's messing up on me, messing around with me at the moment. So it's been doing it recently. It's like GeoGebra's doing its best to make sure I don't get to make videos and stuff. So I'm just going to come in here and I'll stop. Oh, I'm after losing it now. Sorry. As I said, GeoGebra is making things difficult on me. Right, and we'll come back to that in a second. First of all, I want to come to here. Now, so, how do commercial pilots calculate their descent? Commercial pilots calculate their descent by determining a top of descent point and then planning their descent rate to meet the required approach parameters. This involves calculating the distance needed to descend to a target altitude, accounting for ground speed and desired descent angle. Typically 3 degrees. The top of descent is the point where the pilot initiates the descent maneuver. Right, I'm not going to go through every part of it, but I'll read some of it. But the point of this top of descent is, what a pilot will do is, if they're flying at I have it at 37,000 feet, and if the airport is at 3,000 feet elevation, they're going to want to come in at 1,000 feet above the airport as kind of an average, if I remember correctly. So if they're flying at 37,000 feet and the airport is 4,000 feet in elevation, right? If it's a high airport, or 2,000 feet, let's just say, and they want to come in 1,000 feet above that, then they're going to calculate for 34,000 feet. So they're going to subtract that 3,000, the 1,000, the 2,000 of elevation of the airport, and the 1,000, right, foot that they want to end up above the airport for when they come into land. So this is the descent, so they get into the position where they're 1,000 feet above the airport and they come into land. Now, I'm using a situation where the airport is at more or less sea level, and I'm using a situation where the pilot is accounting for 36,000 feet, right? Because there is it's flying at 37,000 feet. There's 1,000 feet that the pilot will want to be above the airport, so the pilot is accounting for 36,000 feet, right? So altitude difference, determining the top of descent. The pilot first calculates the difference between their current altitude and the target altitude for the approach, right? So obviously what we've just talked about, more or less. Distance calculation, the common rule of thumb is to divide the altitude difference by 300. This gives an approximate distance in nautical miles. I'm using statute miles, where the pilot should start descending to maintain a 3 degree descent angle. For example, if the altitude difference is 6,000 feet, they should start descending no later than 20 miles from the target altitude. Right. Ground speed consideration. More precise calculations might involve ground speed, as a faster ground speed means the aircraft will cover ground more quickly, requiring an earlier start to the descent. Calculating descent rate, ground speed, and distance, descent rate calculation. Right, the pilot can then, right, so basically, without reading all of it out, right, you can go and see it yourself. Right, they're using trigonometry. That's what they do. They're using a right angle triangle, right? Here is the proof. This is what they're doing, right? Right angle triangle. That's how they're determining.
And it's pretty basic stuff, isn't it? Right there. Yeah. The airport's not changing its angle with respect to the plane when it's 20 miles out. Why would it?
So this here, this is the line up here. This will be the one that from here. I'll actually show on this one, because it has the full triangle here. So this is their altitude, right? This is the distance they need to calculate to the airport, right? To where they want to be 1,000 feet above the airport. And that is the 3 degree angle they're hoping to have as a descent angle, right? This is how they work it, basically, right? It's the same, right? No matter what way you work it, they're hoping to come in 35,000 feet and 3 degrees, and they're working it all out, right? So they're using trigonometry. That means that this baseline here, the adjacent, right? Oh, sorry, I'll show this one. The adjacent here, right, has to be a horizontal, There's no straight line. There's no if buts, no maybes. That's how it has to happen. They have to calculate it this way. This is how commercial planes, you go to any big airport, you go to Heathrow, LAX, John F. Kennedy, any big airport, anywhere in the world.
Everything they're doing relies on each of those flight levels being parallel and the ground being parallel when they're giving you angles to descend, telling you which flight paths to follow. It's all reliant and contingent on Earth being flat, isn't it?
And remember I was saying this before? Remember I was saying this before? When we were talking, this was like weeks ago, I had said, I guarantee you, not that it was relevant for what the point Brian was saying and what Chalk was saying, but it goes down to that air port or whatever you want, the landing area where they land. I guarantee you, it's level all the way through. There are no deviations of 35-degree slopes or anything. It's leveled all the way because how crucial it is for those pilots to depend on that horizontal level platform to be able to land to do that trigonometry. Whether you want to talk about a local tangency or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's leveled.
And all these planes, like a great one is LAX, because if you're staying in the area of LAX, where there's hotels and motels and different things like that, you're constantly seeing planes coming in, right? So these planes are coming in constantly dealing with trigonometric function, right? Now, obviously, a lot of that has been done for them by the plane these days, but the point is, it's the same thing that they're doing. They're using trigonometry to determine, how they can come in at about 2.53 degree descent angle, right? So what I did was so I'm going to use 36,000 feet because I'm at 30. I'm calculating the altitude is 37,000 feet. So
that Brian in the hangout trying to get a word in.
I'm going to obviously subtract the 1,000 foot from that, 36,000 feet, right? And I'm going to divide it by 300 equals 100.
I am now, Nathan.
That means there's 120.
Yeah, this is what the point of what I'm pointing out here. That to do what they're doing, just from 36, using a 37,000 foot altitude, which a lot of planes will be flying at, a lot of commercial planes, like the bigger ones, are flying at that altitude and even above 40,000 feet. And the Learjets, then some of the Learjets are up 40 something, 43,000 feet, kind of thing. 45 maybe. The point being, sorry, my headphones are off. The point being that to do this, it means they got to do the calculation and determine when they're going to decide to descend before to come into land. And if you're looking at an airport that is 120 miles away from you and you're 37,000, like if you're at 37,000 feet, then you have to calculate for an airport that's 120 miles away from you. That means for that 120 miles, mean sea level must be parallel with the adjacent that you're going to make that you're going to be using, that's going to be 1,000 feet above the altitude of the airport or the elevation of the airport. And if the airport is at sea level, like a lot of airports are, right, then you're basically like, no matter what way you work it, the horizontal the adjacent of your triangle will be parallel with the horizontal for 120 miles at the elevation of the airport. And that's going to be parallel with mean sea level as the horizontal. There is just no way out of this. So what the stupidity that Wolfie and them are coming up with, like to try and fool people when it comes to pitch data, because unfortunately there's stupid people out there who can be fooled, right? This completely annihilates that. I'll show it there in a minute. You'll have to excuse the GeoGebra. GeoGebra is making things difficult on me. I'll go into that another time. GeoGebra are specifically messing around with me, but that's a separate issue. So they don't leave me do exactly what I want to do, but the point still comes across. Thank you.
All right. I was going to say, speaking of the sea level and speaking of LaGuardia, which I've flown out many times, it's a quite intimidating descending landing because if anybody ever has entered into New York LaGuardia Airport, before you get to touch ground, the water is coming at you, and it's like right above the Atlantic, and then it's like it looks like, from a perspective of somebody that doesn't know any better, a mere 6 feet away from the very ledge of the airport. But I'm pretty sure it's several hundred. But when you see that water, and that water gets closer and closer and closer and closer and closer, and then you hit the ground, right there, that proves it right there. What you're talking about is sea level. As far as many airports are based on that to prove that horizontal level, because it's leveled with the sea level. So, which is sea level, which is self-explanatory for itself. That's speaking on LaGuardia. I don't know about LAX and everything like that, but LaGuardia is definitely right over the Atlantic, and you think you're gonna hit the water right before you touch ground.
One other thing, Nathan, before you press play again. This video is also a response, or it's also not a response, but it's out there to combat numpty flat earthers, right? Who would start listening to the rubbish the ballers would tell them, right? Because they exist, and false flat earthers who will start making an argument in line with what the ballers would say, as if it's some kind of an argument. So this annihilates that. Not that I didn't annihilate this in the past, but I'm just saying this also annihilates those people. Thank you.
Right, so this straight line here has to be 120 miles long. So, which leads us back to GeoGebra. Now, earlier I pointed out with the tangent that, right, let's hope this doesn't mess up on me. Right, I go back to the tangent. Right, I pointed out with the tangent that this is a series of points. Right, for 120 miles. A series of points, point after point after point. Let's say every foot is 1 point, let's just say. So that's so between 1 foot and 3 foot, that's 3 different tangents, 3 different orientations. That means at no point can they have horizontal baseline. Because the tangents aren't anything, they're just a straight line that's meeting a circle or sphere at 1 point. That's thousands and thousands of points making one big massive arc length, right? That's what it has to be within their claim. This is not the official claim, but this is the people we're dealing with, right? So, and I'll come back now. I know George is running slow. I could be lucky, could be unlucky with this, right? And I could come in here. Now, when you use what pilots actually use to determine, right, landing, right? I'm using an arc length again here of 120 miles, right? And when I show this, right, hopefully I can come in, right? What happens is, I know it's a bit slow, GeoGebra is messing around, but that's good enough, you can see. Right, what happens is, there is the straight line, right? So K here, right, it's at K here that they're supposed to be 1,000 feet, sorry about that, stop. It's messing around. It's supposed to be 1,000 feet above the airport, but it's actually, sorry now, but GeoGebra is only messing me around. It's supposed to be 1,000 feet above the airport. We have another thing here. But it's actually, if you look at it there a second ago, it was shown to be 1.8 plus miles above what will be their airport. So instead of, there we are. Instead of the pilot, if the pilot flying around the globe, then suddenly for the descent into the airport had to use trigonometry, what's going to happen is they're going to end up not at 1,000 feet above the airport, if the airport is close to sea level, like somewhere like LAX is, right? They're going to end up at almost 2 miles. And that's based off of a 37,000 feet altitude. If they had a 42,000 foot altitude or 45,000 foot altitude, which some of the Learjets or something do have, then the descent is going to be, or this is going to be greater, because the amount of horizontal, because they need horizontal distance, the amount of horizontal distance they're going to be dealing with, the amount of horizontal distance they're going to be dealing with is going to increase. So that means that this number here is going to increase. It'll be more than 2 miles. It could be 3 miles. that they'll be above the airport if you're talking about a globe. Whereas in reality, this is calculated so they'll end up at 1,000 foot, not thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of feet above the airport, 1,000 feet above the airport. So it is impossible for them to use this function in reality and to be also flying around the globe. It's either they're flying around the globe and they're not using this function to determine the pitch data doesn't exist, lift effect doesn't exist, and they're not using this function, right, when they're flying, or the Earth is a globe. So either the Earth is a globe, or pitch data, flight data, as it's given to us, is wrong and doesn't exist. The lift effect doesn't exist, and this function doesn't exist, and they don't use it. And remember, this is the same function they're using for takeoff as well. Right? It's just...
I hadn't thought about that. It's a good job you said that right at the end. Good job I paid attention to the end. Yeah, they're doing it on takeoff too. Good point. To reach their parallel flight level.
It's just not as long of a distance. So, which is it? Right? So this completely disproves all that complete and utter nonsense about a different tangent and a different tangent and a different tangent and a different tangent. All of that is completely debunked.
Yeah.
Right. So when any of these people, I don't care who they claim to be, if they claim to be pilots or anything else, if they're trying to claim anything but this, but flying horizontally, and horizontal being a constant orientation, right? If they're claiming anything but that, then they're lying. There is no...
Cool. Very good. Still here,
well, the problem I had there was two things. The GeoGebra was messing up on me, as it seems to be doing a lot recently. And I had my housemate tell me he didn't know I was making a video. So he was behind me doing stuff. And I was trying to just hurry it up and get it finished. So it wasn't as slick as I wanted it to be. And I was being distracted while I was saying what I was saying. But the point still got through. That's all that mattered.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
The people got the point.
Yeah, I totally got the point. It was excellent. I thought that was really good.
The video before that, you would probably like even more because it's about the GP point. It's about elevation angles and the GP point. The one I made the day before that. That one you would like. You can play that one as well if you wanted. If you're looking for something to add in just for our content.
I will. I'll play that one tomorrow. I'll do that one on the live show tomorrow when no one's here.
I don't know if it's something that, I don't know. Well, maybe, I don't know if you could reply. I don't know if you could respond to it. Maybe you could.
I'll give it a go. I'm going to round out now because we're doing the book in about an hour. Maybe an hour and 15.
Oh, I thought you were looking for something to keep the show going. That's what I meant. That's why I suggested that.
No, I'm going to go and have a lie down for an hour before we do the book. So I'm going to round out. So with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.